come along with me as a little girl on a swing asked her paralyzed father why he missed her school meeting. She tried to defend him by bragging he was a legendary god of war. But since he is crippled, she gets bullied constantly. Even her mother is treated like garbage, crying alone in the dark while the poor girl watches, completely helpless to stop their pain. All she wants is for Lin Feng to finally open his eyes. Locked inside his own mind, he can actually feel her tears and desperate gaze. Suddenly, a nasty little bully shows up to mock her tears. She tries to ignore him, but the brat spits out a vile rumor about her mother using a crippled husband. That insult snaps something inside young Rui. She leaps off the swing, charging straight at Zhou Xiao, screaming that he will pay if he ever disrespects her parents again. But the bigger boy shoves her hard, sending her crashing into the swing. As she cries in pain from the impact, the bully just laughs and spits on her. Clenching the grass in absolute rage, she listens to him call her a wild animal. Pushed to her absolute limit, she lunges forward and bites his hand hard. Seeing her precious son attacked, the bully's mother rushes over. The trashy woman kicks Rui to the dirt, screaming at her for being an uneducated brat. Rui glares up at this awful woman, who is acting even worse than her brat. Ignoring the little girl's screams, the mother drags her over, throws her down, and demands that she kneel and apologize to her son. Watching this cruelty unfold, our main character sits trapped in his wheelchair, his internal energy boiling with pure, explosive rage. A protective instinct surges inside him. Rui refuses to apologize to the trash who insulted her family, but that is when Xiao's father steps into the fight. He brutally yanks the girl by her hair to force a bow, but when she resists, the mother slaps her across the face with absolute contempt. Even facing two furious adults, the brave little girl refuses to bend. Infuriated, the father raises his fist to strike a helpless child. But watch closely right here because our paralyzed main character suddenly catches the man's fist midair, demanding how he dares touch his daughter. The legendary god of war has finally reawakened, declaring that anyone who hurts his daughter will lose their head. Suddenly, this arrogant father realizes his life is hanging by a single thread. There will be no more humiliation for his family. He slams the man into the dirt, leaving the wife and kid utterly frozen in terror. Desperate to save her husband, the wife lunges at Lin, screaming and punching while threatening to call the cops, but he is not about to let her finish that threat. A brutal backhand sends her flying onto the grass. Standing tall, he coldly reminds her of what she did to his precious little girl. Sparing their pathetic lives, he warns them never to forget this day. But as he looks at his daughter, his mind drifts back to his brutal past battles. A battered, bloodied warrior stands breathing heavily amidst the carnage. Suddenly, a voice echoes, praising him for holding off an entire army of 10,000 men alone. Lin snaps his head up as fresh enemy warriors descend around him, yelling that his victory won't come so easily. A leader steps forward, acknowledging his title but declaring that today, he will fall to the 7 sons of the Western Alliance. Hearing their arrogant threats, Lin just smirks and raises his spear with absolute resolve. He roars that after 6 long years of war, he fears nothing, as the Alliance leader charges with deadly intent. Blades flash as they surround him, leaving zero room for survival. But Lin moves like a shadow, slipping past their attacks even as a heavy blow lands. He remains completely unshaken. With a swift spin of his spear, he hurls one of the elite warriors aside. The leader sneaks up from behind, certain of victory, but Lin moves like lightning, piercing the man's chest as blood spills from his mouth. Looking into his dying rival's eyes, Lin coldly tells him that even an army of 10,000 could never push him back. Instantly, the last 3 enemies charge from mere feet away. Lin unleashes a blinding storm of strikes, telling them to blame their own weakness. His spear moves so fast they cannot even react. By the time they realize their mistake, it is far too late. As the dust settles, our hero stands completely alone on the bloody battlefield. He fought to bring peace to his country so his family could be safe, but the toll was heavy. Battered and exhausted, he refuses to fall. You and I both know he cannot fall yet. His daughter needs a transplant. Her sweet voice pulls him back to reality, filling his heart with joy. With dark eyes, he vows to wipe their entire family off the map if they do not bow down 100 times right now. The terrified parents quickly fall to their knees, begging for mercy. Little Rui cries, saying everyone hated her dad, but Lin promises that nobody will ever hurt them again. She weeps, heartbroken, that nobody believed her when she called her dad a hero. He listens, but notices her weak body is still deeply sick. Deeply worried, he tries to stay strong. Noticing his strain, she asks to be put down, and he gently assures her that everything is fine. But when he suggests going home, she reveals the awful truth. Their cruel grandmother kicked them out because her mother had to meet with some uncle's son. Lin frowns, sensing a trap. Rai whispers for him to pretend to be asleep again, and he smiles. playing along with her clever plan. Back in the chair, he plays dead. Right on cue, Rai screams that the Gaskell family assaulted her father, forcing him back into a coma. She warns the terrified couple that her powerful uncle will destroy them, pushing her father away while the bullies tremble, absolutely terrified of paying massive compensation. Finally, they reach the front door. Standing in the hallway is a blonde woman, looking down at them with absolute disgust. She immediately insults the girl, screaming that she forbade them from bringing Lin back. Rai hides behind the chair, bravely saying they are just exhausted. The heartless woman snaps at her to shut up, pointing at Lin and screaming that she must never call that cripple her father. The brave girl stands her ground. But suddenly, a strange male voice echoes from inside, saying it would be an honor to marry Shin, as a wealthy man walks out. Lin's face darkens as Rai whispers that this is the rich man. Behind him, his beautiful wife Shin appears, looking deeply upset. As Shin asks for time, the arrogant suitor turns only to freeze at the sight of Lin in the yard. Trust me, we are going to want to see how our god of war handles this rival. Stick with me, we start right here as Sun meets Shin's daughter, pinching her cheeks and acting all friendly. Right then, Shin's mother insists she see Sun out, but she flatly refuses. Meanwhile, Ray's grandmother runs after him to ask about the meeting, leaving her own daughter completely stressed. Seeing this, little Rai whispers to her father that this creep is trying to steal her mommy. Just then, Shin walks over, gently taking her daughter's tiny hands with pure love. She thanks Rai for watching over her dad today. Sobbing, the little girl asks if her mom is getting a new husband, but Shin promises her that will never happen. Wiping away her tears, Shin spots a bruise and asks if she got into another fight. Rai lies to protect her mom, and soon, Shin takes her family back home. Back at the house, Rai is sent to her room, leaving them alone. Shin sits on the bed, staring at Lin, completely torn about what she should do. Lin wonders if she knows he is awake. She softly whispers to his silent body, wishing he could hear her confession. Hearing this, he tenses up, forced to keep pretending he is asleep. Tearfully, she strokes his hair, saying Ray survived only because of his sacrifice. All she wants now is a secure and happy life for their precious daughter. She weeps, admitting she will marry Sun just to protect her little girl. It is a heartbreaking choice, but pouring her heart out to him brings her some comfort. Apologizing to her emotionless husband, she turns to leave. Lin lies there, his heart breaking as he realizes the sheer agony she has endured while he was asleep. But wait, pay attention here, Lin is not alone. Shin's sister, Jang, walks out of the bathroom and smugly drops the news about his wife's upcoming marriage. Though surprised, he keeps a straight face while boiling inside. Jang walks over, throws a wet towel, and lifts his chin, sighing that such a handsome guy is just rotting away. Suddenly, her phone rings. She lays down on the bed, playfully greeting her sister's future husband. Answering the call, she dangles her bare feet right in front of him. Lin ignores her shamelessness, focusing purely on Sun's voice on the line, asking if Shin accepted the expensive gifts. Jang says no, but assures him her sister will eventually be his. Sun sounds skeptical, so he tells her to go buy whatever she wants, which is music to her greedy ears. She instantly demands designer bags and shoes. Sun promises to buy them all if she does him a little favor. Greedily agreeing, she heads to her sister's closet to get dressed. Slipping on a blouse, she tells Lin he needs to throw out all of Shin's cheap clothes once they are wed. She leaves, leaving our protagonist alone in the quiet room to process everything. It cuts him deep to know Shin is sacrificing herself to this trash just for their daughter's sake. Outside, a gentle breeze blows through the open window, rustling the curtains. Out of nowhere, a shadowy figure appears and bows, thrilled that her master is finally awake. Lin instantly recognizes Xiaoing, demanding to know why she left her post guarding the border. Keeping her head low, she replies that her lord's safety matters far more than any border. Besides, after his legendary last battle, no enemy dares to even approach their territory. Lin absorbs her words and demands further updates. Her face darkens as she reports that over the last 2 years, countless opportunists have surrounded his family, plotting to steal his beloved wife away from him. She admits she could not strike without his orders. Now, he begs for permission to wipe out every single one of those villains. Rage boils inside Lin. While he lay helpless, these vultures crept way too close. But right now, Sun is his main target. He commands Chin to dig up every piece of dirt on the guy. She accepts the order instantly, promising to hunt down the truth and return with the details in a flash. She vanishes silently out the window. But check this out before Lin can even process his next move. The door flies open and little Ray bursts in her face, absolutely beaming with pure joy. She excitedly tells her mother that in her fairy tale book, a prince's kiss woke up Sleeping Beauty with a gentle smile. Rai insists that if her mom kisses her dad, he'll wake up too. Shin is speechless, but looking into those pleading eyes, she actually starts to hesitate. Kneeling down, Shin gently explains it is only a fantasy story. But little Rai already knows her dad is awake and desperately wants her mom to find out, begging her to just try it. Giving in to her daughter, Shin slowly leans over her husband, studying his face. Lin, holding his breath, realizes they haven't been this close in years. She presses her lips to his, pouring her entire soul into the kiss, desperately hoping for a miracle. Rai peeks through her tiny fingers, waiting for her dad to open his eyes and shock them both. But there's nothing. Lin stays completely still. Shin turns to her little girl with a broken expression, softly telling her that real life isn't a fairy tale. Devastated, Rai doesn't understand why her dad is staying quiet. Shin squeezes her hand, her voice shaking as she promises she will find a good new father to protect them. This completely triggers Rai. Screaming through her tears, she calls her mother a liar, reminding her she once promised nobody would ever replace Lin. Crying hysterically, Rai grabs his hand, trying to pull him up and begging him to wake up. Shin turns away, crying silently. The little girl knows he can hear her, pleading with him to show her mom the truth. Behind his closed eyes, Lin is suffering. His heart is in pieces as he begs his daughter for forgiveness, but revealing his recovery now would ruin everything. With no response, Rai screams that he is a liar, just like her mommy. Shin has to drag her sobbing out of the room, begging her to stop shouting at her father. The poor girl can't believe her dad would let another man take his place. Night finally falls on the quiet house, with only a single lamp lighting up the dark room. Eventually, Rai falls asleep, tears still wet on her cheeks, whispering that everyone is a liar. Shin sits silently beside her, crushed under a massive wave of guilt. Suddenly, the door creaks open and Jang stands there, demanding to know why she isn't dressed for the banquet yet. Shin just sits there, completely unresponsive. Jang pulls her up, saying they must leave right now. She reminds her that marrying Sun will give Rai everything she ever wanted. Desperate to stop her daughter's tears, Shin finally gives in. Back in the room, Shin slips back inside through the window. In her hand is a sealed folder full of secrets. Calling him master, she hands over the secret file on Sunday. She warns him that today is Ginsang's birthday, and Sun is hosting a huge party at the Jiangzhou Hotel, with Shin arriving in 40 minutes. Lin takes the folder, thanks his loyal shadow, and pulls out the files. Reading the papers, his eyes burn with absolute fury. The sheer filth of Sun's family methods makes his blood boil. Standing up from his wheelchair, he tells Shin to gear up, because they are crashing this birthday party. The sisters arrive at the hotel, welcomed by a smiling clerk who confirms Sun's private room. And trust me, you and I are about to watch this whole banquet get completely flipped next. All right, you and I are jumping right into a wild drama. Inside a gorgeous hall, Jang is amazed by the lavish birthday decorations, while Shin feels completely uneasy. Nearby, a smug guy adjusts his glasses, shocked his dad booked the entire hotel. Jang giggles and sidles up to her future brother-in-law, agreeing with him. Suddenly, light footsteps echo down the hall as a little girl walks up to Shin, carrying a box holding a gorgeous ring. Jang is drooling over the massive diamond set on a golden band. That is when Sun drops to one knee, presents the sparkling ring, and loudly asks Shin to marry him. The hotel staff whisper in awe, shocked at the insane fortune spent on this proposal. Sun promises to provide for Shin and her entire family, staring at her, waiting for a yes. But Shin feels utterly torn inside. Her mind is racing and she stays dead silent. Meanwhile, Lin and Shin are sitting over by the piano, watching the whole scene play out. Shin asks if she should throw that arrogant jerk out, but Lin tells her to wait, looking at his wife with deep concern. Finally, Shin pulls her hand away from Sun, stammering that this is just too sudden. She admits she is worried about who will look after Lin. Jang panics, begging her sister to just say yes. Hearing her hesitate, Sun completely loses his patience. He stands up, calling her ungrateful after he rented a whole hotel and promised to raise her daughter. Jang chimes in, pressuring her to marry this rich, powerful man. But this time, Shin snaps. How dare he talk to her like that? She rejects his proposal, flat out. Furious, Sun grabs her arm as she tries to run, threatening to destroy her entire family if she does not obey. He snarls that she better play nice if she wants her daughter safe, then proudly declares they are getting married today. The clueless guests actually start cheering and praising his authority. The protagonist has seen enough. Lin looks at Shin and tells her she knows what to do. Now pay attention, watch how fast she moves. Before Sun can touch Shin, Shin grabs his hand, twisting him around. Glares like ice, she orders him to stop right there. Sun's bodyguards rush in, but he smugly waves them off. confidently ordering the crowd to clear the area. This arrogant idiot actually thinks Chin stepped in because she is jealous of Shin. Smirking, he strokes her cheek and asks if she wants a piece of him too. The guards laugh, hyping up their boss, but Chin has officially had enough. Boom! She slaps him so hard his glasses shatter. Sun stands there completely frozen, clutching his face in shock. Then he absolutely loses it. He screams at his guards to tear her apart. The men rush forward, shouting that she just made the biggest mistake of her life. But that confidence vanishes when Chin raises a hand and easily sends the first guy flying. With zero effort, she sweeps through 3 more guards, leaving them groaning on the floor. The remaining guards stare at their beaten comrades, completely speechless. Sun, red with rage, screams that he is the heir and this entire hotel belongs to his family. Chin gives him a look of absolute disgust, saying rich boys need to learn some humility. Right then, a woman nearby mutters that she is dying to know who this girl is. Chin calmly turns and wishes her a happy birthday, leaving her stunned. Suddenly, a beautiful piano melody echoes through the hotel and someone yells to look at the stage. The sisters turn, completely shocked to see a gorgeous guy on stage playing a stunning song. Jang is practically drooling, screaming about how incredibly handsome he is. But Chin recognizes him instantly. It is her husband. She whispers that her master has finally returned, leaving the woman beside her totally confused by the strange title. Sun is absolutely furious that some random guy is performing in his hotel. He screams for the manager, who rushes over with security, immediately ordering his men to deal with him. You and I both know what is coming next. Security surrounds them, and Sun smiles, thinking Chin will finally pay. He points at her and barks the order to throw her out. But instead, the guards turn on Sunday. To his absolute horror, they grab him and drag him toward the exit. He kicks and screams, yelling his own name. But the manager smiles coldly, explaining there is no mistake. Lin bought out the entire hotel tonight. Sun tries to stay tough, but pure panic sets in. The manager bows and apologizes to Chin, then orders his staff to throw Sun and his goons out. They are kicked out of the hall, ignoring his furious screaming. Over the radio, the manager blacklists Sun's entire family from the hotel forever. Meanwhile, the crowd turns back to the piano. Chin stares at the stage, her mind racing with a massive storm of emotions. Could that really be her husband? Mesmerized by the rich, handsome stranger, Jang begs Chin to introduce them. But Chin quickly lies and says she has no idea who he is. The guests are completely spellbound by Lin's incredible melody. Suddenly, loud explosions from outside catch everyone's attention. Someone points outside, telling everyone to look up. They gasp as brilliant fireworks light up the night sky, spelling out a massive happy birthday message right in the center. Chin is left speechless by this insanely romantic gesture. Hearing Lin's name spoken with such high praise sends a wave of intense emotion through her, sparking a sudden urge. She absolutely has to see if that man at the piano is really her husband. She spins around and dashes toward the stage, but her younger sister grabs her arm, trying to hold her back. Chin breaks free and runs forward, certain her husband is waiting. But when she reaches the stage, it is completely empty. The piano sits there, dead silent. Her heart drops as she desperately wonders why he vanished so quickly. Suddenly, her sister mentions that Lin already went back home. Hearing this, Chin believes her and runs back to their house. In reality, Lin had left the hotel early, beating his wife home. Back in his room, he commands Chin to gather all intel on the Jian family and bring it to him. She apologizes for speaking out of turn, but says his awakening should stay hidden, promising she can handle this issue on her own. Lin just smiles, asking if she is actually worried about people finding out he is awake. Chin looks out the window, avoiding the question, when she suddenly spots Shin walking in. She bows, bids farewell to her master, and promises to execute his orders. Lin quickly changes into his old clothes to keep his recovery a secret. He hates lying to his wife, but he has no choice. As Shin walks in, she completely ignores her mother's questions about the party. Behind her, the woman screams that nothing has changed and her husband is still just sitting there. Jang follows her inside with a smug grin, boasting that Shin was incredibly successful tonight. She shows off a video of the man who rented the entire Jiangzhou hotel, boasting that this rich guy named Lin did it all for Shin. Their mother scoffs, saying they can dump Sun now that they found someone richer. But Shin ignores the noise and opens her bedroom door. With tears in her eyes, she softly whispers Lin's name, praying he is awake. Her heart shatters, seeing him motionless in his wheelchair. She was so sure she saw him at the hotel, but now her hope completely crumbles. Sobbing, she remembers how 5 years ago her greedy family forced her to marry Sun, a man she absolutely hated. She was overjoyed when her grandfather introduced her to Lin instead. They marry that very night, and soon their daughter Rei was born, a beautiful light in their dark world. But then Rei fell ill, needing a transplant. Lin saved her, sacrificing his own health. As Shin cries, "Trust me, you and I are going to watch him rise again." Her daughter was safe, but her husband was left broken. Kneeling in front of him, she begged him to come back, unable to bear this pain. Lin looked at his wife, his heart aching. "Stick with me, because this story gets wild." Silently, he promised her that the wait was almost over. Meanwhile, her sister Jang watched coldly, unable to understand why she stayed with this useless husband who depended on everyone else. But then, remembering a wealthy man named Lin, she smirked. Jang slid into the room, trying to coax Shin out by suggesting they hit a bar. Shin refused, needing sleep to get ready to school the next morning. She suggested another night, but persistent Jang kept pushing, insisting her sister desperately needed to unwind. Earlier, Sun had called Jang, demanding she honor their secret deal. She hesitated at first, but he promised he could make the mysterious, wealthy Mr. Lin her husband. Swallowing the lie, Jang agreed to bring Shin to the bar. She hugged her sister, loudly cheering that Shin was the absolute best, while secretly plotting her betrayal. Exhausted, Shin finally relented and went to fix her makeup. As she walked toward the door, completely clueless, Jang glared at our main character with an evil smirk. She leaned close, whispering that after tonight, his wife would finally divorce him. Then she left. Now, watch closely because the moment he is alone, Shin slips through the window. She reported that she had uncovered the latest secrets of the Jang family, the family of our hero's wife. Shin explained that their company faced a massive financial crisis, and this rival family promised to save them if Shin married their son. Hearing this, Lin frowned, muttering that the son is a snake, and we will see if he is faster than a blade. Watching his wife's car leave, our hero ordered Shin to shadow her. Meanwhile, at the VIP bar, the targets sat waiting, with the servers noticing just how incredibly cheerful he looked. Pouring him a drink, they asked if he had some good news. The guy burst into wild laughter, bragging about his massive upcoming win, while everyone around eagerly cheered him on. Soon, the sisters entered the club. Honestly, you and I can see why every guy in the room immediately turned to look. They were stunning, drawing everyone's eyes. Sun smiled widely and stepped toward them, but Shin immediately stopped him cold, stating she did not come to see him, and demanded to know why he was even there. Her younger sister tried desperately to smooth things over. Right then, Shin realized her own sibling had teamed up with this creep to trap her here. Sun quickly bowed, admitting he had acted way too rashly, begging for a chance to apologize and talk things over. Our hero's wife knew her family still desperately needed Sun's influence, so she could not afford to burn this bridge just yet. Sun promised it would never happen again. But in his mind, the scumbag was only counting down the seconds until he could drag her into his bed. He walked over to the bar and poured some wine. Seizing the exact moment her attention was diverted, he quickly slipped a drug pill into her glass. Smiling warmly, Sun then offered her the spiked drink as a peace offering. But Shin refused, explaining she was driving. Instantly, her scheming sister chimed in, urging her to take just one sip to prove she had actually forgiven him. Jang grabbed her arm, insisting a single sip would not hurt. Reluctantly, Shin took the glass and downed it in one go. Jang smiled, telling Sun he must now believe her sister's sincerity. Sun was thrilled, practically drooling at the thought of claiming her. Seconds later, our hero's wife began feeling dizzy and tried to tell her sister they had to leave, but the arrogant jerk blocked her path, standing right beside her. He grabbed her as she tried to resist. Despite the crowd, everyone just smiled. "But trust me, you and I know her husband is coming. All right, you and I are diving right into the drama." His own sister watched this happen and did nothing before Chin got snatched. Furious, Lin ordered his men to track her down immediately. Within seconds, they confirmed she was at the Grand Milky Way Hotel. Our furious protagonist ordered his men to investigate the situation while he prepared to handle the main threat himself. Meanwhile, Sun dragged the helpless girl to a nearby hotel, leaving Chin utterly confused and terrified. Trapped in the room, she tried to figure out his twisted plans. Chin begged to go home, but Sun ignored her, gaslighting the poor girl by claiming she was just drunk and knew exactly why they were there. Sun grabbed her face, sneering that they were spending the night together. But this girl is a fighter, instantly shoving the creep away with all her strength. Now watch this creep smile. Sun sneers that he loves a fighter, whispering disgusting things that will honestly make your skin crawl. He grabbed her hand, bragging that escape was impossible with his men guarding the place. Overwhelmed with disgust, our hero's wife fought back fiercely, knowing she had to resist with everything she had. Seizing her chance, she viciously bit his ear. Enraged, the bastard yanked her hair, screaming that if she kept fighting, he would make her end absolutely miserable. He began choking her, blaming her for rejecting his marriage proposal. As Shin desperately prayed for her husband, the door suddenly burst open and our hero arrived. Failing to recognize him, Sun yelled at him to get out. But our hero's death glare said it all, promising to bury Sun's entire family if he dared lay another finger on her. She stared in disbelief, and trust me, you and I loved seeing Lin send that scumbag flying with a punch. You and I are jumping right into the action as Sun stares at this unexpected guest in a wheelchair, completely baffled by his arrival, before finally slumping back down in defeat. With a fresh black eye matching the nasty scrape on his cheek, Sun is absolutely convinced these two are plotting against him. This ridiculous theory only makes our main character even more furious. Suddenly, Sun struggles to his feet on trembling legs, boasting that backup is already on the way. He actually acts superior, claiming a high-class person like Lin would never dare mess with him. The idiot even threatens Lin, warning him that his wife and daughter will pay if he gets touched. Our hero instantly snaps, asking what kind of garbage is coming out of his mouth. Lin wants to end this with a simple warning, but Sun pulls out his phone, swearing he will prove who the real nobody is here. Too bad for him, his hand gets grabbed instantly. Now watch closely as Lin asks if this is the hand that touched Chin. He twists the arm, sending Sun into pure agony as he screams that his family will get revenge. Lin answers with a brutal strike, dropping the man to his knees. He makes it clear he does not care about any powerful family, walking away with a promise of zero mercy next time. Meanwhile, Chin is barely holding on, her eyes growing heavy as she starts to lose consciousness. Lin immediately rushes over, wrapping his own jacket around her to keep her safe. He promises she is safe now, but she is still terrified, weakly reminding him that doing this will only land him in prison for murder. Her panic is completely real here. Hearing this, Sun gets his confidence back and starts mocking them. But Lin just steps up, coldly tells him he does not even view him as human, and shoves him right back down. Sun begs for mercy, and as Lin lifts his foot, we are left wondering what comes next. Trembling in absolute terror, the broken bully asks what Lin actually wants from him. All right, you and I are about to watch our main character lose it on the creep who dragged his wife to a hotel room. He is about to teach him a lesson. All right, you and I are about to watch our main character teach this trash a lesson. The man begs Lin to back off, but Lin stomps right on his most painful spot, making him scream. With his duty done, our hero leaves Sun writhing in agony. He gently gathers his wife into his arms as she finally wakes up. Looking up at Lin, she is overwhelmed with joy that he rescued her. She is terrified this is all just a dream, but her husband reassures her and apologizes for being late. After a quick kiss, he calls Chin, saying he is bringing his wife home to be examined by a doctor. Chin smiles happily. In just 2 years, the world completely forgot about the legendary Supreme Lin after his accident, but now he is fully recovered, kickstarting his epic comeback by absolutely crushing the arrogant Sun family. A bit later, Lin slips into the room to find his daughter still fast asleep. As he leans over the bed, his gentle touch wakes the little girl up. Suddenly, Rui bursts into tears and throws her arms around him, crying that she was terrified she would never see him again. She worries about his health, but Lin reassures her that he is just tired and they both need some rest. He tells her that her mother will return soon, but just as he turns to leave, the little girl tightly grabs his hand. Rui looks incredibly upset, terrified her father will vanish in the night because he lied to her before. Realizing this, Lin softly confesses that his plans have changed, but she must keep the secret that he is finally awake. Rui promises not to breathe a word, even to her mother, as the two of them swear to keep their little secret. Meanwhile, pay attention here. A doctor reviews Sun's charts and delivers the grim news. His only hope is a highly dangerous surgery, but the risks to his life are just too massive. The young heir panics, thinking his days are numbered, until the doctor drops a bombshell. He needs an amputation. Hearing this, the guy screams in sheer rage, swearing to make Lin pay dearly. Meanwhile, Shin is sleeping peacefully in her room, while her daughter patiently waits nearby. Suddenly, Shin opens her eyes and realizes she is finally safe in her own bed. Hearing Rui's voice makes her head spin. Her daughter giggles, teasing her for sleeping in so late. But as the terrifying memories of last night rush back, Shin instantly turns her gaze to her husband. But there he is, sitting in his wheelchair just like always. She bursts into tears, convinced her rescue was a dream, and some other man actually saved her. Rui gently cups her mother's face, telling her not to cry because her dad will protect them. Suddenly, Shin's mother storms in, demanding to know who dared to drug her daughter with that pill. Shin holds her daughter tight, explaining that Sun spiked her wine, but luckily, a mysterious savior showed up just in time. The mother is ready to hunt down whoever dared to ruin her daughter's honor, but stops cold, asking if she is really accusing Sun. Shin is 100% sure of his guilt. She insists she is right, but her sister quickly pipes up, claiming it is just a big misunderstanding. She argues Sun would never do that since Shin was supposed to marry him anyway. The sister is desperately trying to cover her tracks since she brought Shin to that bar. Meanwhile, their mother agrees, insisting that Shin must be mistaken. This makes Rui furious, and she yells that her mom never lies. The old woman raises her fist, threatening the child and warning her to stay quiet when adults are talking. Lin is boiling with rage but has to keep his cover. Suddenly, Shin's phone rings, sending a wave of panic through her. It is Sun calling, and she freezes. With a shaking hand, she answers. Sun demands she meet him at his place immediately, threatening that if she does not, the entire Jian family will vanish. The call goes dead. Shin's mother begs her to swallow her pride and apologize to save their family. Disgusted by their cowardice, Shin is forced to agree. Rui absolutely hates seeing her mother forced to bow down to her abuser. It is just so unfair. But let's pause for a second once they are alone. Rui begs her dad to tell her mother the truth. Lin asks his daughter to push his wheelchair to the park, promising to crush these thugs so grandma cannot blame her mother anymore. Rui is thrilled by the plan, and Lin gently reminds her that this must remain their little secret. Meanwhile, Sun's father stares at his crippled son. His wife weeps hysterically, refusing to let anyone get away with ruining their only boy. The furious father snaps, shouting that tears will not help, and blames his wife for spoiling their boy. He calls his son useless trash for dragging their noble family reputation through the mud over a woman. Sun desperately claims he was brutally ambushed, but his father only grows more furious, calling him an incompetent weakling. However, the mother defends her son, convinced that the Jins are actively plotting against their family. Walking to the window, the father dismisses her fears. The Jins are far too small to be a threat, even if someone is backing them. Still, he decides it is time to interrogate Shin. Sun keeps whining that Shin's crippled husband beat him. The furious father vows to rip the man limb from limb when suddenly their conversation is cut short. Our hero suddenly appears right inside their house, radiating an incredibly oppressive, heavy aura. Lin coldly asks how much trouble they have caused to need so many guard dogs. The terrified mother ducks behind her husband, who demands to know Lin's identity. From the bed, Sun points a shaking finger, screaming that this is the monster who attacked him. The father sneers at Lin's guts for breaking in, but our hero just looks down at them with pure disgust. In his eyes, these absolute clowns are not even worthy of his wife's apology. Furious, Sun's father raises his hand, ordering his guards to seize this arrogant bastard immediately. Lin just smirks, pointing out that his guards are already knocked out, but offers to wait while he calls for backup. Livid, the father warns Lin he won't survive this, offering him one final chance to beg for his life. Amused by the pathetic threat, Lin simply asks if the old man is really that confident. In a flash, Lin teleports right behind the arrogant father. Before the man can react, a brutal punch sends him crashing to the floor as Lin coldly explains he can get away with whatever he wants. The mother watches in absolute panic, wanting to scream. But the moment Lin glares in her direction, she instantly shuts her mouth, trembling in pure terror. The father struggles to stand, spitting blood as he growls that he does not care who is backing Lin, because he will destroy them all. Lin appears right before him, calling him just as much trash as his pathetic son. Watching this, Sun realizes Lin is not even human, as a terrifying, demonic aura fills the room. Our hero lifts the old man by his throat as screams for mercy fill the room. The mother falls to her knees, begging to pay any amount. Knowing their company is finished without his father, Sun starts begging too, swearing never to bother Shin again. But to Lin, their sudden desire for peace is just flat-out pathetic. He tosses the old man aside like garbage. The father gasps for air on the floor as his wife panics. Lin gives them one day to apologize to the Yins or be erased, warning them to keep his return a secret. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see how this unravels. All right, stick with me here. The father heard the boy's terms and felt a wave of anxiety. The door slammed shut, leaving the family alone in tense silence. Humiliated and furious, the patriarch was not about to let Lin get away with this. Blinded by rage, he immediately began searching for hired thugs to wipe out the Jian family once and for all. Scrambling up from the floor, he began making desperate calls while his wife guarded the hallway, but instead of barked commands, the old man was hit with nothing but devastating news from the other end. Every single investor had pulled their funding, and the banks blocked all their loans. The phone slipped from his trembling hands. He could not grasp how his multi-million-dollar empire collapsed in a single day. Shivering under a blanket, Sun desperately asked what their next move was. But his father was completely lost in thought, terrified of Lin's true power and how he managed to pull this off. Sun was equally clueless since the Jian family actually needed their wealth. Suddenly, his father ripped the blanket away, screaming that his massive corporation was his entire life's work. He ordered Sun to take the cash and go beg Shin for forgiveness. Sun could not believe his own father was forcing him to apologize. Shaking his son violently, the man roared that if the girl did not forgive them, he would disown him. Meanwhile, Shin's mother rushed out of their house, commanding her daughter to accept all of Sun's terms, or they would be completely ruined. Too exhausted to argue with her overbearing mother, Shin just quietly nodded and agreed to go along. As they headed to the gate, her mother nagged her to put on a friendly face. But before they could step out, they froze. Outside stood the young heir, Sun, desperately kneeling on the cold ground. Shin's mother frantically tried to pull him up, babbling that everything was her own daughter's fault. But Sun slapped her hand away, sobbing that yesterday was entirely his mistake as he begged for mercy. Shin watched this, suspecting some kind of sick trap. But pay attention here, the arrogant heir actually grabbed her skirt, weeping and promising to never show his face again. Overwhelmed with disgust, she told him she would only let this go if he vanished from her life forever. Sun literally wept with joy, swearing he would stay away. His extreme reaction left her completely baffled, unable to guess what sparked such terror. Along with his desperate apology, he handed over a check for $1 million as compensation. Shin's mother, Lee, wasted no time and snatched it instantly. As Shin coldly reiterated that she never wanted to see him again, Sun scrambled away. Lee immediately demanded to know who helped her destroy a family as powerful as the Sun's, but Shin genuinely had no answers. After pondering for a moment, the mother concluded that their mysterious savior from yesterday must be an incredibly powerful figure. Fleeing the scene, Sun desperately hoped this apology would save his skin. But his relief was short-lived when he ran straight into Lin and his little daughter. The protagonist glared down at him with a terrifying, icy stare. Trembling, the young heir reported that Shin accepted his apology and asked if there were any further commands. Lin coldly replied that he hoped their paths would never cross again. But as he turned to flee, Lin's voice froze him in his tracks. Our hero calmly reminded him that if a single word about his identity leaked out, his entire family would be utterly destroyed. Terrified, Sun collapsed to his knees, swearing to keep Lin's secret forever. Meanwhile, Shin's mother kept nagging her to divorce that crippled loser. She insisted there were plenty of wealthy men out there, so why waste her life with such a useless husband? She kept pulling every manipulative trick in the book, forcing Shin to rethink things. Just then, little Ray returned home with her father, running straight to her mother's side. Shin was stunned to see her daughter back so soon with Lin. Little Rai happily chirped that she had taken her father out to sunbathe. Relieved, the mother immediately pulled her daughter into a warm embrace. She showered her daughter with praise, but the bitter grandmother just scoffed and rolled her eyes. Leaning in close, the little girl whispered a secret to her mother that her daddy had totally beaten up all the bad guys. But of course, that was their little secret. Shin stared at her daughter in absolute shock, but quickly laughed it off, promising she would walk her to school tomorrow. The next morning, little Ray got ready for school, checking on her dad before leaving. Let's pause here. Just seeing his family happy made Lin feel incredibly grateful, even in his current condition. Moments later, the main character asked his assistant to wheel him outside, wanting to watch his daughter leave for school. A short while later, we catch up with little Ray. She sweetly told her mother that she wished her daddy could pick her up later. Shin smiled, promising a reward for good behavior. But suddenly, Xiao's smug family blocked the school gates, looking for trouble. Shin pulled her daughter close, ready to protect her. She demanded to know what they wanted. The arrogant man pointed to the bandage on his forehead, fiercely blaming Lin for the injury. He sneered, promising they would not get off easy this time. His wife demanded $200,000 for moral damages, dramatically hugging her kid and whining that the poor child was too traumatized to eat for 2 days. Xiao's father refused to back down an inch, but Shin instantly shut them down, saying it was impossible. Belittling Lin because of his wheelchair, the thug stepped closer, shouting that he was going to destroy her useless husband. But brave little Rai stepped up, screaming that she would call her daddy. Right then, the bully felt a sudden, terrifying wave of Lin's bloodlust. Desperate to avoid another beating, he grabbed his family and bolted. His wife was utterly baffled, wondering why they were running from a guy in a wheelchair. But the man had a horrible gut feeling, while our hero quietly noted that they would settle this score later. Shin then knelt down to her daughter, gently telling her it was time to head inside. Just then, Principal Yang appeared near the gate and requested a private chat with Shin. Confused, she could not imagine what the principal wanted to discuss. Yang suggested they talk in his office. Assuming it was just a standard update about her daughter, Shin agreed, and they walked up to his room. Once inside, Yang dropped a bombshell, claiming Rei's school enrollment contract was expiring and they needed to renegotiate. Shin was stunned, protesting that they had agreed on 2 years and only 6 months had actually passed. The director shrugged, making cheap excuses about limited spots and missing reservations. But Shin furiously reminded him that she paid $50,000 upfront when they signed the contract. Sitting back, the corrupt man sneered that the $50,000 was merely an admission fee. This deeply angered Shin, since that cash was supposed to cover her entire first year. But the director just laughed in her face. He mocked her for falling into his trap, but then offered a greasy solution to secure her daughter's spot. The first option? Pay him $1 million, plus his personal commission on top of that. He knew damn well she did not have that kind of cash lying around, so he smirked, waiting. Steeling herself, Shin coldly asked to hear the second option. Propping his feet on the table, Yang mentioned her husband's crippled state, suggesting he didn't need to spell out what the second option required. Shin was absolutely livid at his disgusting implication. Slamming her hands on the desk, she called him a disgusting monster. Yang simply adjusted his glasses and coldly replied that her daughter would never attend this school on her own terms. Shin refused to be blackmailed and declared she would take her daughter to another school. Annoyed, Yang sneered that no elite prep school in the entire city would ever accept her without his direct approval. So, Yang smugly barked that she would be crawling back tomorrow to beg him. Meanwhile, Ching noted how expensive this school was for Shin to afford. Suddenly, something caught their attention. Ching wheeled Lin around, and trust me, you and I are going to see some heads roll when he spots his wife running out in tears. Alright, let's jump right into this scene where our main character realizes things are going south in the principal's office, so he goes to check. Just then, Aisha Hu's father shows up to make a move. Principal Yang gets instantly nervous, plastering a fake smile on his face. He pretends to be thrilled to see them, but honestly, he just wants to stay on Ju's good side because the guy is insanely rich. They straight up demand that a little girl get expelled immediately. Yang quickly realizes they are talking about Rui and promises that by the end of this semester, she will be kicked out for good. But the family wants her gone now, so Jay promises to pay him $1 million if the girl leaves today. The principal happily agrees, thrilled to make such easy money. But suddenly, the door gets kicked open with a massive bang. Everyone freezes and turns their eyes right to Lin, who just walked in. The principal has no idea who he is messing with and tries to act tough. But just looking at Lin makes the wealthy couple shake with pure terror because they already know his power. Clueless Yang ignores the warning signs and demands to know what Lin is doing. Suddenly, Joe gets slapped right across the face, leaving his wife terrified that they are about to lose everything. Now getting nervous, the principal tries to order Lin to leave. It backfires completely when Lin looks him dead in the eye and promises to rip his tongue out if he says another word. Lin turns back to Joe, asking why he suddenly stopped trash talking. Our hero pins the guy's hands to the floor, warning him that if he ever dares to touch his wife, he will lose those hands forever. Next, Lin glares at the wife. Realizing she is in deep trouble too, she immediately drops to her knees, begging for mercy and admitting they were completely wrong. Lin agrees to spare them on one condition: they pack up and leave town today. The principal is totally confused by Lin's power, while the terrified family scrambles out the door. Lin casually sits on the couch, giving the principal one final opportunity to explain why he targeted his daughter. Only then does the realization hit the principal. This terrifying man is actually Rei's father. Now pay close attention here, because this idiot principal actually tries to threaten Lin. He says he will only let his daughter stay if Lin's wife sleeps with him. Talk about crossing a line. Pure rage explodes in Lin. He leaps off the couch and delivers a brutal kick straight to the face, shattering Yang's glasses. The principal hits the floor, clutching his bleeding cheek. Yang is trembling all over, unable to comprehend the beating he just took. He grabs his phone and screams in absolute fury that he is going to make Lin pay dearly for this. But he does not even get to make the call because the door bursts open. The principal runs over, hoping for backup, but his boss stands there, looking absolutely furious. The owner found out about the principal's power trip and demands to know why he abused his position. He even heard about the disgusting threat to Lin's wife. Yang stands frozen, unable to believe he is fired. The boss refuses to take the fall for his subordinate's stupid mistakes. He fires the principal on the spot and orders Yang to leave the city immediately. The ruined principal is completely bewildered, wondering how I suppose nobody destroyed his life. The boss bows and apologizes to Lin, promising to fix everything immediately. But our main character remains completely unimpressed. He is more than capable of handling his own business. Seeing the silent ex-principal, the school boss warns him that no one is coming to save him. Yang starts begging for forgiveness. Lin leans down, telling Yang his biggest mistake was thinking money and power let him control everyone. From this moment on, Yang will have no money, no home, and nothing left but to beg on the streets. The boss agrees this is a fitting punishment, promising Lin his daughter will get top-tier education. The boss is just incredibly relieved that the mayor called in the nick of time, essentially saving his skin. So what do you and I make of this? Lin steps back and demands total silence about his presence. They agree, but it is clear the higher-ups already know about his massive awakening. Meanwhile, Shin walks through the park, feeling like the entire world is crashing down on her today. Suddenly, her younger sister catches up and asks if she is heading to the office. Shin vents about having to pay that ridiculous 1 million school fee. Her sister claims it is because they lack social status and brings up Sun, which immediately makes Shin absolutely furious. She storms away from her sister, declaring that starting today, they are cutting all ties with that toxic family. Jang mentions hearing about Shin's mysterious boyfriend and suggests asking him for help, but Shin tells her to stop talking nonsense. Jang thinks her sister is being incredibly foolish for staying with an unproductive man instead of seeking out someone wealthy and influential. With that short exchange over, Jang walks away, leaving her sister to deal with the mess all alone. Later, Jang meets up with Sun at a local cafe. Noticing how rough he looks, she wonders if he is sick, but Sun snaps in anger, fearing she might be a threat. Jang is totally confused by his rage. She explains she only wanted to remind him to step up if he wants to win over her sister. Sun smiles coldly, saying she is basically trying to drag him straight to his grave. The younger sister brings up his rivals, reminding him that she still thinks he is the best candidate. Sun thanks her, but his expression turns incredibly dark and terrifying. Deciding she has no use for a quitter, Jang says she is leaving. As she walks away, Sun watches her leave and immediately makes a call to some thugs, telling them he has a special job ready. Jang strolls down the street, genuinely surprised by how fast the wealthy heir threw in the towel. She is mostly just upset that she won't be getting that expensive bag she wanted. Suddenly, two thugs start tailing her, though she is too distracted to notice. The guys eye her up and down, silently thanking Sun for the easy target, promising they are going to have plenty of fun with her. They jump right in front of her, laughing mockingly and asking if she is out here all by herself. Jang freezes in terror, completely clueless about what these sketchy men want. The thugs look her up and down, making their nasty intentions obvious. Watching from the shadows, King asks Lin if they should save her, but our hero decides to let her learn a lesson first. He knows she'd do anything for cash. Even though she is annoying, she is still his wife's sister, so he watches to see if she genuinely needs saving. Meanwhile, the thugs drag her into a dark alley as she begs, offering them money. But Sun already paid them well, and they are not about to waste this golden opportunity. Hearing Sun's name, Jang is utterly shocked, unable to grasp why the guy she tried to help would betray her. She screams at the top of her lungs, but her panic only excites them more. The thugs aggressively tear at her clothes, leaving her completely defenseless. Jang weeps, desperately crying out for help. Right on cue, Ching steps in like an absolute badass, taking down the white-haired thug with a single strike before effortlessly knocking out his partner. Jang huddles on the ground. Chang looks down at the trembling girl and tells her not to bother thanking her. She warns Jang to stop interfering in her older sister's life, or next time, no one will come to save her. With that warning, she leaves the dark alley. Still sobbing, Jang is left wondering why that powerful warrior referred to her sister as ma'am, and who on earth is the master pulling the strings. Clutching her torn clothes, Jang feels a wave of guilt for trying to force her sister to be with Sun. Meanwhile, Ching returns to Lin's side, hoping the girl finally learned her lesson. She tells our hero about the upcoming Benhai feast, but he shrugs it off. Meanwhile, we see a guard telling Sun his men got taken out. Trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. Lin is absolutely stunned to realize their mission completely failed. But this guy is not stopping there, swearing that his revenge against Jang is only just beginning. Plotting his next move, he contacts his close ally, Liu, to take down Jang. Soon, with the big Benhai celebration drawing near, Sun suddenly shows up at Ching's house again. He puts on a fake smile, claiming he only wants to help. Ching's clueless mother falls right for his trap and enthusiastically agrees with every word. Sun then asks the women if they have heard about the grand Benhai celebration happening in 2 weeks. The mother gets incredibly excited, knowing how massive this event is, hoping he will take them along. But Sun explains his own family lacks invitations, though he can introduce a powerful friend who can get them in. Lin's wife is not having any of it, though. She stands up immediately and coldly states she has zero interest. But her mother, Li, grabs her arm tightly, refusing to let her leave, begging her not to throw away such a golden opportunity. While the mother keeps pleading, our hero plans to attend the party himself if Jang agrees, intending to bring the sisters. But suddenly, Rui and his father make an unexpected entrance. Sun is visibly sweating, shocked that this terrifying force returns so quickly. Terrified, he quickly bows to the ladies, pleading with them to let him know their decision as soon as possible. Lee insists that Jang is obligated to accept the offer. However, after everything that just happened, Jang is not about to trust Sun or his shady promises so easily. She heads downstairs to warn her mother, but Lee gets furious, absolutely convinced the young master could never do such a thing. Jang stops arguing, but a dark feeling lingers that those criminals will strike again. Right then, Yixin reveals that her grandfather called yesterday, demanding she report to the main family house. Lee is instantly worried, having no idea why the old patriarch suddenly wants her daughter. She confesses she doesn't know the reason, but feels they need to go right away. Soon, they arrive at the Jang family's main mansion, which is massive compared to their country home. The grandfather sits at the head of the table, visibly angry that their family has been completely ignored and denied an invitation to the grand celebration. He notes that despite their business booming lately, the city's elite still treat them like nobodies. The blonde cousin glances at the girl, hinting that she might be their ticket to get noticed. She is stunned to realize that this wealthy branch of the family is putting their burdens on her. After all, the grandfather barely showed any concern for her over the past few years. Now pay attention here, because this is where the old man shows his true, selfish colors. He reminds her of the financial help he gave, demanding a major favor. She is completely stunned, honestly believing he is joking. The blonde cousin asks with pure disdain if she refuses to support the family, while her other cousin sneers that she is just playing dumb to get out of it. She argues that she cannot possibly solve a problem the head of the family cannot fix, but the patriarch explains that a very powerful figure has taken an interest in her beauty. Anxiety grips her as she protests, pointing out she is already a mother. Her cousin just smirks sarcastically, telling her she should be begging and thanking them for this incredible opportunity. Even her uncle joins in on the mockery. Pushed to her limit, our main character's wife leaps up, shouting that she is a married woman, not some object to be traded. But her protests fall on deaf ears as the uncle sneers that being a toy is better than caring for a vegetable of a husband. As Shin tries to defend his honor, the grandfather slams the table, promising eternal gratitude if she just complies. But she refuses to back down. She declares that she will never throw away her dignity or allow them to sell her body for their personal gain. You and I both know she is incredibly loyal, right? She firmly protects her husband's honor, telling them to do their own dirty work, disgusted they would even ask. But the ruthless patriarch refuses to take no for an answer. Instantly, her toxic cousin steps in, threatening her with the dire consequences of her defiance. Yet, she stands her ground, knowing her body is hers alone to govern. That's when her cousin takes a darker turn, warning that a terrible accident might just befall her husband. Fueled by pure jealousy over Shin's stunning looks, the bitter cousin demands to know what men even see in her. In a sudden fit of rage, she shoves Shin onto the table before throwing her to the cold floor. Looming over her, the cousin screams that this is her final chance to make the right choice, warning that the lives of her family hang in the balance. Heartbroken and bruised, our female lead is forced to swallow her pride to keep her husband and child safe. The cold-hearted grandfather simply waves his hand, dismissively promising to spare her small family only if she successfully secures that invitation to the grand event. Feeling completely crushed, she exits the mansion. Returning home, she quietly heads to a nearby park with her husband. Sitting together on the swings, she gathers the courage to tell him about the grandfather's cruel demands. She tearfully explains to Lin that a powerful figure wants her, and she must comply to prevent this ruthless clan from destroying both him and their beloved daughter. She whispers through her tears that she has no choice but to get that ticket, or else they will destroy everything she loves. Clinging to her husband, she begs him to understand she would never willingly betray him, but losing him is simply not an option. She apologizes, believing this sacrifice is the only way to shield them. Hearing this, a terrifying rage erupts inside him, his hands suddenly glowing with a strange blue flame. Gently putting his wife to sleep on a bench, he swears that everyone who dared threaten her will pay dearly. Within seconds, Ching materialized right beside him, bowing low and ready to execute any command he gives. Lin decides he will no longer hide his true identity, commanding Ching to announce his grand presence at the upcoming Binhai celebration. Meanwhile, back home, the mother is shocked to find the family patriarch visiting. Right then, the cousin proudly introduces a wealthy man named Liu Xiao. He boldly sits right next to the mother, smoothly playing with her hair while she sits frozen in sheer confusion. The grandfather demands she summon her daughter immediately, insisting they cannot keep an elite guest like Liu waiting. The mother explains she is dropping Rui off at school, then cautiously asks what they want. The cousin reveals that Liu Xiao is highly interested in Egg Sin. If she plays along, their family will finally secure ultimate wealth. The mother is overjoyed, while the cousin smugly gloats that they owe it all to the grandfather. Minutes later, the sisters walk through the door. Liu Xiao immediately scans their bodies with greedy eyes, praising the cousin's excellent taste in selecting such beauties. Zhang's smile completely vanishes when she spots her grandfather, who had previously sworn to leave them in peace. He coldly introduces Liu as the man Xin must accompany tonight, as the creep greedily grins in anticipation of their date. Li quickly corners her eldest daughter, whispering fiercely that she absolutely cannot ruin this golden ticket. The grandfather scowls at her silence, angry she did not warmly greet their guest. However, Liu dismisses it with a smirk, saying a little shyness on a first meeting is totally natural. He steps forward to brag about his massive business empire, but Xin simply turns her back and walks away in disgust. The old patriarch clenches his fists, barely holding back his explosive rage. You and I know a massive storm is coming. As Liu frowns at the insult, the cousin slaps Xin, screaming at her audacity. Trust me, you are going to want to see what happens next. All right, you and I are about to watch some seriously satisfying payback. It starts with this arrogant girl demanding our protagonist's wife apologize to Liu, right before Yan gets rudely interrupted by Liu. Poor Xin sits on the couch holding her cheek, getting threatened that her bad attitude will cost them their invitation. Meanwhile, the cousin clings to Liu, bragging that grandfather will fix it. Out of nowhere, Liu flashes a creepy, threatening smile, demanding one more person join their party. Li instantly speaks up, saying Jian has to go with him. Jian is totally against this, but the old grandfather just casually lights a cigarette, telling the boy to take both sisters. Li then snaps at Jian, yelling that Xin will be there to protect her. Liu pulls the terrified girl close, ordering the sisters to tag along. The sleazy guy actually thinks it is an honor for them to spend the night and get rewarded. Xin wants absolutely no part in this, but Liu threatens the safety of her husband and child. He smirks, thrilled to watch this proud beauty throw away her principles. Hidden on the stairs, our main character watches this entire ugly scene. He immediately calls Qing, ordering her to ban the Jian family entirely and send an exclusive invitation to Xin. Outside, as the sisters reach the gate, Liu tries to make his exit. But out of nowhere, Qing steps directly into his path and commands him to freeze. Liu has no idea who this girl is, but Qing makes it clear he is not taking anyone to the party. With dead serious eyes, she warns him to prepare for a tragic end. The guy arrogantly assumes she is just jealous and wants a ticket for herself, but his smug smile vanishes when Qing cold-bloodedly reveals his invitation has been completely revoked. John stares in awe, wondering who this mysterious savior is. Meanwhile, Liu scoffs, refusing to believe a multi-billion-dollar family could get banned, laughing off the girl as a cheap actress. Qing is completely done talking to this fool. Right then, Xin gently tells her not to worry. Now pay close attention here because things are about to get violent. Liu threatens to make Xin beg on her knees, but Qing loses her temper and slaps him so hard he hits the dirt. Screaming on the ground, he vows to destroy her, but Qing calmly threatens to slice his tongue out. Just then, the angry old grandfather storms out into the courtyard. The old man is furious, realizing his family might miss the entire event. He immediately blames Lin's wife, leaving her totally confused since she has zero control over any of this. He tries to scream at her, but Qing cuts him off. She loudly repeats that Liu has absolutely no invitation and is banned from the venue. Then she drops a bombshell out of the entire family. Only Xin is invited to the Benhai celebration. Everyone is stunned, especially the grandfather, who has no clue who this master is. Qing bows deeply to Xin, promising her exclusive invite is on the way. The grandfather scoffed, refusing to believe such VIP passes are just handed out to random people on the street. Right on cue, a courier arrives at the gate, asking to deliver an invitation to Xin. The grandfather is speechless, unable to comprehend how Xin got invited. Dragging himself up, Liu recognizes the newcomer as Wang, utterly shocked to see such a high-status man in this place. Liu boasts to the crowd that this is the actual organizer of the Benhai celebration, expecting to be saved. Instead, Wang glares at the bruised idiot and asks why he is acting so rude. Liu proudly declares himself the heir of the mighty Liu family, but the organizer cold shoulders him, stating plainly that the Liu family has been banned this year. The grandfather's jaw drops as the organizer confirms their ban. Without missing a beat, Wang orders his guards to drag Liu away so he does not annoy the master. Wang smiles warmly, holding the invite and asking for Xin. Our protagonist's wife gets incredibly nervous, seeing this powerful man looking directly for her. Wang bows deeply, presenting the golden invite sent by the mysterious Mr. Lin. Taking it, Shin cautiously asks if this Lin is the same guy who booked that luxury hotel room for her. Wang confirms this is just one of many lavish gifts from Lin. Jian immediately whispers that if her sister marries this wealthy master, their family will be set for life. I know what you are thinking, but check this out. Arpa politely explains that the master is far too busy with critical business to entertain guests. Qing then glares at the sister, warning her to stay out of Shin's personal affairs. Terrified by Qing's intense aura, Jian begins to shake. Annoyed, she snaps back that her sister would never leave her husband anyway. With his mission accomplished, the organizer bows to Shin. Qing coldly reminds him his job is done and he can leave. Suddenly, the grandfather demands to know who this mystery master is. The jealous cousin, Yan, snatches the invitation away, mockingly asking what cheap tricks Shin used to seduce such a powerful man. Yan insists that only she deserves to attend the grand gala. But Shin refuses to back down, desperately wanting to find out if this legendary master is actually her husband. The furious grandfather accuses Shin of choosing her useless husband over her own bloodline. He demands she leave the protagonist and use this new connection to make their family filthy rich. To save her family from trouble, Shin agrees to let them have the invite. Yan smirks with absolute joy, fully believing that Shin is completely unworthy of such an honor. Watching from above, Qing begs to go down and teach them a brutal lesson. But our protagonist stops her, coldly promising that he will make them regret ever being born. Suddenly, Qing's phone rings with an urgent call from the school principal. Little Rui has been rushed to the hospital. Hearing his daughter collapsed, Lin orders Qing to start the car instantly. Minutes later, they arrive at the hospital, where Rui lies completely unconscious on a bed. As the doctor reviews the scans, Lin and Qing rush inside, frantic for answers. The doctor explains that all other causes are ruled out. She is suffering a relapse. Clutching his daughter's hand, Lin asks if another bone marrow transplant will save her, but the doctor insists they must summon the legendary Dr. Li immediately. Lin is shocked to hear Dr. Li is even in the city, but the doctor explains that Li rushed back the second he heard rumors of the master's awakening. Lin instantly dispatches Qing to bring Dr. Li. While she runs off, the physician asks Lin if he truly understands the horrific severity of his daughter's condition. Lin admits he was severely wounded back then and missed the details. The doctor drops a bombshell 2 years ago. Rui awakened both the imperial and royal lineages simultaneously, triggering her coma. The legendary war god freezes, completely unable to believe his ears. But just then, Dr. Li bursts in, assuring the lord that the princess is safe. Tears well up in the old man's eyes, overwhelmed with emotion at seeing his master once again. So what do you and I make of this imperial lineage? The war god drops the act, returning to the real issue of saving his daughter. All right, you and I are about to uncover a crazy secret. Royal and imperial bloodlines never mix. Yet Dr. Li reveals 3 people actually have both. Our main character already knew about himself and some kid in the capital. But who on earth was the third? After a long, dramatic pause, Dr. Li drops a massive bombshell. The third person is actually little Rui. Instantly, the doctor's intense aura flares up. Our main character does not like this one bit and barks out Qing's name, while the little girl quickly hides behind the old man. Qing places his hand near his neck, warning the doctor to start explaining before he touches her. Li reveals that Lin's royal blood was sealed away years ago, meaning it never should have passed to his daughter. He then asks the god of war if he wants the real truth. Lin, completely baffled by where this imperial bloodline is coming from, signals Qing to finally let the doctor go. The old man swears that under his care, absolutely nobody will detect her imperial lineage. This is exactly what Lin needed to hear, so he decides to trust Dr. Li for now. Qing points out that the school already called Shin, and she's on her way. Knowing he must disappear, our main character warns Li to handle the explanation to Yinsen carefully. Now watch closely here. Shin sprints through the hospital hallways, absolutely panic-stricken. She breezes right past Sun, who demands to know what she is doing here, while his nervous buddy begs him to avoid any drama. After getting a quick smack to the head, Sun admits he actually has nothing to do with this mess. He figures she must be in a panic over her little kid. Leo is totally confused as to why this matters, but Sun points out that Shin will desperately need cash for medical bills. Knowing her family is completely broke, Leo plans to exploit this to make her crawl back and beg him. Just then, Yinsen bursts into the clinic, crying out for her little girl. Li hushes her so they do not wake the little princess. Startled by this strange old doctor, she asks who he is. Dr. Chen quickly introduces his esteemed mentor and reassures her that Rui is safe and sound. With a sharp snap of his fingers, Rui begins to stir in her bed. Li reassures them that she will wake up any second now, thanks to his acupuncture. Suddenly, Rui opens her eyes. looking around desperately for her dad because she is positive she heard his voice. Her mother comforts her, explaining she fainted at school and was incredibly lucky to be treated by this master of traditional medicine. Recognizing his genius, Rui thanks him. The old doctor gets incredibly emotional, calling her a sweet, kind angel, before leaning over to give the little girl a warm, protective hug. Still, Shin starts panicking about the bill. She knows her greedy family will not give her a single dime to help. Noticing her stress, the doctor gently declines any money, stating he was sent by Mr. Lin. Hearing that name, Rui realizes she was not dreaming, her dad really was here. Shin immediately begs him to reveal who this mysterious Mr. Lin is and why he keeps saving them. Bound by secrecy, Lee only reveals that Lin is the legendary Supreme Lord of the Southern Border, promising she will know everything when the time is right. Tucking the little girl back in, the doctor slips a business card to her mother, telling her to call immediately if Rui needs anything else. Seeing she is stable, he bids farewell and departs. Rui then tugs her mother closer, whispering that the doctor was sent by her dad, insisting she heard his voice in her sleep. Normally, Shin would brush off her daughter's imagination, but deep down, she secretly hopes this legendary Lord Lin is indeed her long-lost husband, as it would explain absolutely everything about this mysterious protector. The only problem? Why on earth hadn't he just told her directly that he was awake? Okay, I know what you're thinking. Shin is overwhelmed, but she masks it completely, winking at Rui as she promises they will head home soon. Suddenly, Dr. Chen steps in, advising that the little princess needs to stay under observation for a few more days. Leaving her daughter alone makes Shin incredibly anxious, but brave little Rui insists she will be fine and happily stays behind. So, the sweet girl waits patiently in her hospital bed to fully recover. Meanwhile, Lin is still lingering at the hospital, asking his subordinate for intel on the Jin family head. Ching has already dug up some incredibly bizarre details in record time. She reports that while the family is completely ordinary, Shin's father was entirely different. Lin remembers meeting his father-in-law just once before the man suddenly passed away. Ching confirms this, adding rumors suggest he was never actually the true heir. This catches Lin's attention, casting major doubt on his father-in-law's true identity. Lee then steps forward, revealing his elite social connections helped him discover the emperor actually had light-haired heirs. While this points to Shin's father being imperial blood, they cannot prove it yet. Shifting gears, the old man eagerly requests to take the young princess as his disciple. Lin grants him permission to help train her hidden powers, then asks what else he wants. Lee humbly begs to attend the upcoming massive Bin Hai celebration. He desperately wants to witness Lin's grand return to glory. Meanwhile, Shin is forced to leave her daughter behind, urging her to behave for Dr. Chen and promising she will sprint back the second work ends. She says a warm goodbye, promising everything will be fine. Suddenly, she gets a harsh call from her toxic cousin. Shin has no clue what else she wants, since she already handed over the invitation, but Yan barks orders for her to get to the office. 30 minutes later, she arrives, only to hear furious shouting coming from the finance department. Yan is standing inside, coffee cup in hand, screaming at the terrified staff, demanding to know what they are doing. Shin hates dealing with her, but must know why she was summoned. Yan turns to her, mocking her for asking stupid questions, screaming that Shin is the financial manager yet playing hooky while the company faces a major crisis. She then hurls her coffee right at Shin's face, but Shin swiftly dodges, reminding her she had officially requested today off. Yan snaps, threatening to dock half her monthly pay, warning next time she won't miss. Shin tries to stand up for herself, but Yan refuses to listen, blaming her entirely for the entire company's failure. Shin knows this crisis is actually Yan's fault, since her cousin handles all the major accounts. Feeling exposed, Yan lashes out and demands Shin fix the entire crisis in 3 days or get fired on the spot. That deadline is completely insane, and Shin thinks she's joking, but she's deadly serious, cold-bloodedly repeating that failure means instant termination. Yan smirks, fully confident Shin will fail miserably. Meanwhile, over at the other office, Sun complains that just like Leo, he is absolutely sick of waiting around. But he adds that Yan swore everything with Shin will go smoothly. Leo is desperate to know how they will gain an advantage, and Sun smiles, totally sure they will win. Still, Leo cannot shake his anxiety, knowing this is far from their first failed attempt. Sun grins and claims he has a solid plan B. He had even questioned Yan's reliability earlier, making her sweat until she swore to keep quiet. Both men smirk, thinking the family's good looks skipped her. Leo demands to know the scheme, and Sun reveals Shin only has 2 weak spots, her daughter Rui and her husband Lin. Trust me, you and I are about to see a massive storm brew. All right, you and I are diving right back into this insane story. Our hero heads to his daughter's room to ask if she wants to be Dr. Lee's apprentice, and little Rai immediately asks if she'll learn how to heal. All right, you and I are jumping right into this crazy story, starting with the legendary god of war doting on his daughter. But before he can say a word, his lieutenant, Ching, interrupts with urgent news about his wife Shin's company. The greedy Jian family wants to seize their home to cover company losses. Lin asks who is pulling the strings, and his soldier reports that Lu and his son were spotted sneaking into the finance department. Little Rai is terrified for her mom, but Lin reassures her that he will handle everything. He just wants his precious daughter to focus on recovering. Ching awaits her orders, asking if she should drag those two trash heaps in. Lin decides to deal with them later, prioritizing his wife, Shin's safety for now. Meanwhile, Shin sits in her office for hours, unable to find a way out of this nightmare. All her business partners suddenly pulled their funding, and even the bank refused to help her. With only 24 hours left to save her company, she is drowning in panic. Suddenly, the door flies open, and someone barges into her office without even knocking. It is Lu's arrogant son, executing his sleazy plan when she is most vulnerable. He acts totally relaxed, pretending he is some noble savior who came to rescue her. Shin immediately stands up, refusing to accept any help from this snake, and orders him to leave. He tries to threaten her, saying her family will end up homeless, but she refuses to bend. Claiming he just loves helping people, the guy heads for the door, saying he won't bother her anymore. But right before leaving, he drops a trap, telling her to meet him in a hotel tomorrow by 9 in the morning. Furious, Shin yells that she will never strike a deal with such a scumbag. Unbothered, he simply smiles and says he will be waiting for her at the hotel tomorrow. Shin realizes this entire trap was orchestrated by her cousin and Lu's son. Meanwhile, back at home, we see her stressed mother frantically digging through a pile of legal documents. She demands to know why company assets are being delivered to their home. Left with no choice, Shin confesses that the Jian family is about to seize their house. The mother loses her mind over this disaster, complaining about their endless bad luck. She insists Shin should just ask that powerful man Lin for help, but Shin sighs, explaining she has never even met him. True to form, her mother starts blaming Shin for everything. Desperate, Shin cannot bear to let her family down. With the Wang family ignoring her letters, she has no choice but to face Lu's son. Now pay attention here, because she arrives at the hotel room, completely unaware of what is waiting inside. Entering the room, she announces her arrival to Lu's son, keeping her eyes glued to the floor. She has no idea the man standing by the window is someone else entirely. Suddenly, Master Wang turns around and greets her warmly. Shocked, Shin immediately assumes he is in league with the Lu family to destroy her company. Wang steps forward to clear up the misunderstanding. Explaining he is short on time, he hands her a massive check, revealing that Mr. Lin has already handled everything and outsmarted their enemies. Shin is overwhelmed with joy, deeply grateful to her mysterious savior. With his mission accomplished, Wang quietly departs, leaving her to process her relief. Outside, Wang's warm smile vanishes. He meets with Lin to report that his wife is safe, meaning it is finally time for the god of war to unleash his wrath. Meanwhile, Lu is waiting in another room, furious that Shin has not crawled to him yet. His phone rings, and the Jian family boss appears, bragging about his ability to snatch anyone he pleases. Hearing a sudden knock, Lu rushes to the door, grinning and expecting his prey. Instead, he is greeted by a terrifying face he never wanted to see again. It is Ching, and she immediately delivers a brutal kick right to his face. Lu flies backward, smashing into a table of food with his lips split wide open. Lu whines, demanding to know why this crazy woman keeps stalking him. Ching says nothing, stepping aside to reveal her boss. Lu freezes, recognizing the legendary figure instantly. Lin introduces himself as a veteran of countless wars, known to the world as the Supreme Commander of the South. Shaking with absolute terror, Lu wonders why this legend is protecting Shin. Lin coldly reveals she is his wife before slamming the coward to the ground. Lu stammers, refusing to believe a supposed cripple could be the legendary commander. Lin unleashes an overwhelming aura, not caring what the worm believes. He bends down, grabs Lu by the collar, and effortlessly lifts him into the air like a rag doll. Lin is determined to make him pay dearly. The arrogant rich kid still thinks he is untouchable because of his family wealth, but he is dead wrong. Lin hurls him across the room, smashing him hard into the wall. Bleeding and broken, Lu no longer doubts the terrifying identity of the man before him. You and I both know scumbags like this always beg for mercy at the end. Ching smiles as Lin towers over the trembling fool, showing him real consequences. With Lu's arm snapped and his body utterly broken, Lin decides to spare him for now, coldly stating that this is merely a gentle warning. Lin warns the beaten trash that there will be no mercy next time. Before turning to leave, he reminds him to keep his mouth shut about his true identity. Walking down the corridor, Ching asks if they should worry about retaliation. Lin scoffs, promising that if Lu's family acts up, he will wipe them off the map. Suddenly, Ching's phone rings, freezing the conversation. She pales in horror as Dr. Chen reports that the little princess has been kidnapped and is completely missing. Lin loses his mind with rage, rushing to the hospital while keeping the news from Shin. Demanding answers, the god of war corners Dr. Chen the second they arrive. The doctor stammers that he only left for a moment to set up her physical therapy. When he returned, little Rui was gone. Blaming himself for failing to protect his daughter, pure rage consumes Lin. With a single, devastating punch, he shatters the concrete floor of the clinic. Dr. Chen drops to his knees, sobbing that it is all his fault, but Lin tells him to stand up, refusing to blame a doctor who is simply doing his job. Grateful and stunned, Chen watches as Lin orders Ching to lock down the security checkpoint. Meanwhile, a lazy guard is absorbed in a mobile game. Obsessed with winning his game, the guard is startled when Ching suddenly appears behind him. She demands the security footage, but the lazy guard slowly demands more details first. Ching explains that the missing patient is a child who vanished an hour ago. The guard rolls his eyes, telling her to search the hospital yourself first. Glued to his screen, he lazily says he will only help after 24 hours pass. Suddenly, a flash of energy blasts the phone straight out of his hands. Lin is done playing nice and has no time to waste. The guard yells back, claiming he cannot release private security footage, especially to random outsiders. Lin unleashes a murderous aura, forcing Ching to step in before heads roll. Trust me, you and I are about to see this guard regret every single life choice. Get ready, because you and I are about to see this guard lose his mind over a Royal Imperial token as Ching demands he hurry up and pull up the security footage. Seeing Lin finally calm down, the guard rushes to the computer to pull up the last hour of footage, eventually finding a clear shot of little Rui sleeping peacefully in her room. Our main character leans in and orders him to zoom in, revealing a figure in a white lab coat, picking up the sleeping girl and carrying her off to parts unknown. Staring closely at the kidnapper's silhouette, the guard realizes he actually recognizes the guy, telling Lin that the suspect looks exactly like a hospital intern named Zhao Gang. Ching admits she has never seen this guy, and the guard explains that Zhao got the job through connections and kept a low profile. Worse, Zhao had asked about the cameras 2 days ago, making it clear this was planned, and hearing this makes Lin start to lose his cool all over again. Giving Ching exactly 5 minutes to track Zhao down, she does not hesitate for a second, instantly vanishing to carry out his orders. Feeling the suffocating pressure in the air, the terrified guard worries he messed up, keeping his mouth shut as Lin radiates pure, terrifying fury. As our main character sits in silence, the guard wonders if royals are always this terrifying. Right before Ching returns with Zhao dragged right into the room, she throws him straight at Lin's feet, explaining they caught him sneaking around. But the guy tries to play dumb, claiming he is just a doctor doing his job. Lin demands to know where the kid is, but Xiao keeps acting clueless, asking what child he is even talking about. Losing all patience, our hero slams his boot onto the kidnapper's shoulder, cracking the floor and pinning his arm to the ground as Ching and the guard watch in silence. The guard shivers at this brutal display, but it works. The terrified kidnapper quickly breaks and screams that he was hired. Now watch this. The god of war is actually glad to hear this confession, finally giving him the perfect excuse to stop holding back. Though the hit looked effortless, Xiao instantly coughs up blood from the sheer impact, and before he can even breathe, our hero steps heavily onto his chest, pinning him to the cold floor. Xiao tries to fake passing out, but Ching sees right through the act, offering to torture the truth out of him, though Lin says he has no time to waste. Realizing this is his only shot at staying alive, the terrified doctor begs to confess and immediately reveals exactly where he took little Rui. Gasping for air, Zhao confesses he put the girl in Sun's car to be taken to his mansion, and while Lin is not surprised by the name, Sun's fate is sealed. Xiao begs for mercy, claiming Sun forced him to do it, but Lin knows the kid made a fatal mistake, and simply ending his life is way too gentle. Our hero orders Ching to dispose of the trash and meet him at Sun's mansion, where everything currently seems completely quiet and peaceful. Inside, little Rui is tied to a chair, bravely screaming that the police will catch him, but Sun just laughs, mocking her because no cop would dare touch an elite family without proof. This disgusting coward blames Lin for his own miserable state, truly believing that torturing this innocent child is a fair trade for his ruined health. He violently pinches her cheeks, but Rui bravely fights back, screaming that her mother did nothing wrong and that her father is coming to save her very soon. Furious at hearing Lin's name, Sun strikes the poor girl's forehead, blaming that trash for his pain, But as Rui bursts into tears, glass suddenly shatters. Our hero appears right behind Sun, delivering a massive punch that sends him crashing through a solid wall, instantly stopping little Rui's tears the moment she sees him. Overjoyed, Rui hugs her father as he unties her, promising that she is safe now, before carefully checking her over to make sure she is not seriously hurt. She mentions the bad uncle hit her forehead, but happily says the pain disappeared when Dad arrived, prompting Lin to lift her up and ask if they should punish him. And trust me, you and I can see the fear in Sun's eyes as the little girl innocently describes how much that strike hurt her. Taking advantage of the distraction, Sun tries to bolt outside, wondering how on earth Lin tracked him down so fast, while the god of war calmly listens to his daughter. Nearing the exit, Sun genuinely believes he will be safe once he reaches the crowded street, assuming Lin would never dare to attack him in front of witnesses. But he forgot one crucial detail: Lin is the god of war, possessing speed that defies human logic, completely crushing Sun's pathetic escape before it even starts. Lin stares coldly at the trembling coward, casually noting that he never gave him permission to leave, sending a wave of absolute horror through Sunday. Desperate, Sun tries to strike the arm holding Ru, breaking free to run for his life while screaming for his wealthy parents to save him from this monster. Naturally, he does not get far before Lin grabs his hand, effortlessly twisting his arm back and making him howl in agonizing pain. Rui covers her ears, complaining that the bad uncle is being way too noisy, so her father gently promises silence as a blue flame erupts from his hand. The flame strikes Sun, making him scream so loudly that Rui closes her eyes, before his voice dies down into pathetic squeaks as he collapses to the floor. Suddenly, the head of the Sun family bursts into the room, begging for his son's life, only to freeze in sheer horror at the state of his boy. With a severely burned chest and eyes rolled back, the father falls to his knees, desperately begging the god of war to forgive his son's stupid mistake. But our hero remains cold as ice, feeling absolutely zero pity for them, and the patriarch realizes they are completely at his mercy. Suddenly, Qing bursts in to report that the hospital has been secured, and though Rui is startled, her father gently reassures her that this lady is a trusted friend. Lin hands the girl to Qing so he can finish this business alone, as little Rui clings to her, wishing her father luck in delivering justice. With the child gone, our hero can finally unleash his full power, showing no more of his usual mercy. The patriarch tries to bargain, but Lin coldly reminds him he has no rights here, before instantly finishing off the crawling, pleading young master with one fatal blow. Forced to watch his son die, the shattered father hears Lin declare that it is far too late for mercy, as he never gives second chances. Using his insane speed, our hero instantly grabs the shocked patriarch's head, warning him that his entire family has exactly 24 hours to leave town forever, and that is a brutal promise and I know he will keep. All right, you and I are jumping right into a high-stakes drama where a terrified father realizes he must obey Lin or face the afterlife. Back at the estate, the furious father stormed inside, desperate to find the bastard who dared to lay a hand on his son. He swore he would rip the culprit to shreds. Li wanted to cry to his dad like always, but the chilling memory of Lin's warning stopped him cold. He knew that revealing Lin's identity meant total ruin, so he had to shut his mouth. Staring blankly, he muttered that he didn't know anything. This sent the father into a rage, slapping Li hard across the face while reminding him that their family owned this entire city. Wondering if the giant family was actually stronger, Li chose silence. His father scoffed at his weakness, adding that his pathetic story didn't matter because an investigator was already on the case. Right on cue, a shadow appeared nearby, reporting that he had successfully traced the link between the assailant and the powerful Jian family. The father was instantly ready to wipe the Jians off the map, but seeing his spy linger, he realized there was even more to the story. And he was right. The man revealed Sun had been murdered, and by the exact same beast who thrashed Li. Terror gripped the young master, realizing he might be next on the hit list. His dad mocked the Sun family, calling them pathetic losers who couldn't even handle the Jians. Blinded by rage, he began plotting a deadly scheme to wipe them out during the Benhai celebration night. Meanwhile, the day arrived for Shin to pick up her daughter from the hospital. The loving wife entered the clinic carrying a sweet cake, eager to see how little Rui was feeling. Now pay attention here because she finds an empty hospital room. She screams for her daughter in pure despair, absolutely terrified of what we both know is coming. The cake slipped from her trembling hands, smashing onto the floor. But then, Shin heard her daughter's sweet voice, instantly running to hug her and checking for wounds. Not wanting her mom to worry, Ru lied that her dad took her out. Shin warned her not to play with strangers, her heart racing when she learned Lin was the one who took her. This was because Jin believed her husband had been home this whole time. Watching the emotional scene unfold, Jin realized Shin valued her daughter's life far above her own. Standing nearby, Lin quietly admitted that Shin was an incredible mother. The war god felt a deep pang of guilt, whispering that he owed her far too much. Then, Lin gently reminded them that it was time to get dressed, as they were attending the grand Benhai banquet. Little did they know, he was ready to unleash hell and fight to his last breath. Elsewhere, a powerful man lounged in a pool, sipping wine with supreme confidence. He turned to his guard, demanding to know if the legendary Lin had truly awakened. The servant nodded, confirming the heavy rumors, and added that Lin had already single-handedly banished one of the powerful local families. The arrogant dragon lord dismissed it as a cheap show of strength, claiming Lin's family had already lost their real authority. But his subordinate insisted Lin was a direct threat to the emperor, who needed to be eliminated. Infuriated, the master unleashed a shockwave of raw energy from the pool without even moving. The servant was blasted backward as the dragon lord snarled that he never ordered such a strike. Crawling back up, the loyal servant begged his lord to realize that leaving the god of war alive was suicide. But the dragon lord countered that Lin's public prestige made him highly useful. Still, he decided Lin needed to be shown his proper place. Nodding in agreement, the submissive guard promised to handle the matter quietly. Approaching the center of the pool, the dragon lord reached out with a horrifying, non-human hand to claim the legendary spear. But the divine weapon resisted, crackling violently with red lightning. The artifact flat-out rejected him, forcing him to let go. The backlash of red lightning severely scorched his hand, making him mutter that since Lin was alive, he deserved a personal visit. Suddenly, grotesque eyes sprouted on the man's mutated hand as dark energy surged. Realizing he could never tame the legendary artifact, the Mad Emperor resolved to shatter it into pieces. I know what you're thinking, this emperor is completely out of his mind. But while he laughs, Lin's family is completely oblivious, peacefully spending their night at home. Suddenly, Lin gasped as a strange sensation hit him, realizing the Thunder God's spear had just been obliterated. Qing noticed his sudden pale face and asked if something was wrong. Lin urgently asked about the spear. Qing explained that after the border war, the royal family seized it, but the land weapon only obeys its master and would never serve another. The protagonist grimly revealed that the divine spear was destroyed moments ago. The girl gasped, pointing out that such a divine weapon shouldn't be breakable. Lin explained that this was a direct warning to him. He knew exactly who had the power to shatter that legendary spear, and that monster would definitely be at the Benhai celebration. Sitting back in his wheelchair, Lin vowed to reclaim everything the crown had stolen. Meanwhile, a shadow clad in black approached Lin's house, creeping silently toward the illuminated windows. Locking eyes on Lin's silhouette, the assassin hurled a deadly blade. In a flash, the glass shattered as the projectile tore through the air at blinding speed. Qing instantly realized they were under attack. Lin ducked just in time, snatching the flying blade mid-air unharmed. His loyal guard shouted that she was going to hunt down the assassin. Lin quietly inspected the dragon god dagger in his grip. Downstairs, Zhang and the mother were relaxing in the living room when strange, muffled noises upstairs made them freeze in alarm. Suddenly, the power cut out, plunging them into darkness. The girl looked around in absolute terror as Lin realized with dread that multiple killers had breached the house. Zhang shrieked as a dark silhouette materialized right before her eyes in the pitch black. Trembling, she demanded to know who he was and how he got inside, but the intruder remained dead silent. The masked assailant glared at the terrified women, coldly whispering that they would pay with their lives for protecting the wrong target. A sinister purple orb of energy began swirling in the killer's palm as he prepared to strike. Terrified to die, the mother cried out in panic, offering him all the money they had. The masked fiend barked that she could take her cash to the grave. Zhang clung tightly to her shivering mother, enduring agonizing seconds until they saw a hand gripping the assassin's wrist. Lin sneered at his cowardice and effortlessly twisted his arm, asking why he targeted innocent girls. Despite their past, Lin was determined to defend them from this threat. Suddenly, crackling blue lightning erupted from the hero's hand. The assassin gritted his teeth, gathering dark power into his free fist to strike back. The two clashed head-on, each landing a heavy blow on the other. The mercenary let out a mocking laugh, preparing to strike again while underestimating Lin as weak. They traded blows in a blur until a sharp blade appeared in the masked killer's hand. Hearing the front door click open, the thug sneered, asking if that was his family, forcing Lin to react instantly. But when Shin and her daughter stepped inside, the room was empty. Shin walked into the darkness, finding the family trembling. Zhang frantically asked if her sister had returned safely. She flips the switch, only to gasp at the brutal wreckage of the clash. And as she demands answers in horror, we're left waiting to see how this wild story unfolds. Alright, let's dive into a crazy story where Jang explains they were totally ambushed, but a mysterious savior saved them. Jung even mentions this hero looked exactly like Mr. Lin from Axon's birthday. Ray rushes inside, screaming at the top of his lungs that his dad saved the day. But the grandmother just scowls, still treating our main character like absolute trash. Meanwhile, our hero finishes off the thug and studies the golden dagger. Suddenly, Ching pops up at the window, deeply apologizing because the main bandit somehow managed to slip right through her fingers. Lin shrugs it off and tells her to examine the golden blade instead. Immediately, his subordinate gasps, recognizing it as the legendary weapon awarded only to the Dragon Lord's elite servants. She adds that Binhai's grand feast was suddenly rescheduled to tonight, confirming their worst fears. Lin immediately orders Ching to tell Wang to bring Axon over quickly to keep her safe. Our main character realizes his enemies are plotting a trap at the banquet. Ching bids farewell and slips away, but just then, the bedroom door bursts open as his joyful daughter rushes straight into his arms. She's absolutely certain her heroic dad saved her aunt and grandma. Smiling warmly, her father praises his little girl for being so incredibly smart. Holding her tight, Lin gently asks what she would think if her dad was not actually a good guy. Little Rui just smiles, saying that as long as he protects her and her mom, he is her hero. Right then, Axon walks in and softly tells her daughter not to exhaust her father. She scoops Rui up, agreeing that they should let him get some much-needed rest for a while longer. Axon desperately wishes Lin would finally awaken. Suddenly, her phone rings. Answering it, she hears Wang's voice on the other end and immediately asks what is going on. Wang explains the banquet was moved up and a ride is coming tomorrow, though Axon worries she has no invite. Wang laughs it off, saying a paper card does not matter because she is their most honored guest. Relieved, she thanks him and apologizes for any trouble. Afterward, Axon gently strokes Rui's hair, sweetly asking her to watch over her father while she is away tomorrow night. The little girl happily agrees, saying she feels totally safe by his side. Fast forward to the next evening, and the Binhai celebration is finally underway, with the massive venue brilliantly lit and decorated. Lin notices Axon looking incredibly anxious despite the grand event. Truth is, she is terrified for her family's safety, especially after their home was brutally raided. But her mother snaps, calling Lin useless garbage and telling her to focus on finding a rich husband. Suddenly, they turn around as Shin spots her grandfather arriving alongside Yan. Jang holds his mother back, admitting she is absolutely furious at their cousin's terrible attitude. Yan spots them and smugly asks how they snuck in without invites. Jang shouts back that they are Wang's personal guests and he brought them himself. The young man standing beside Yan is completely stunned by Jang's beauty, while Yan desperately tries to make herself look superior. Laughing, Yan waves her ticket and tells them to pack up and go home. But Lin's sister-in-law points directly at her, demanding she return the invite since it actually belongs to her sister. But Yan scoffs, claiming only worthy elites deserve such an honor. Hearing this, the wealthy guy beside her glances at the ticket and nearly chokes when he sees its rare purple and gold colors. Those colors represent the High Imperial family, fueling rumors of a secret alliance. But before anyone can react, another man suddenly snatches the invite from Yan, loudly declaring it to be a complete fake. She tries to grab it back but fails, her smug smile vanishing instantly. Yan is completely outraged that some random stranger has the nerve to call her genuine invitation a cheap fake. Her grandfather barks at her to watch her mouth, introducing the powerful elite as Master Zhou. Jan immediately feels a cold sweat, realizing they are dealing with a truly dangerous heavyweight. One of his associates sneers, questioning why lowlife trash like the Jian family is even allowed inside such an elite, high-class gathering. Hearing the insult, her anxiety turns to pure, boiling rage, but her grandfather quickly holds her back. The old man bows deeply, begging forgiveness for their rudeness. Seeing the family head grovel, the wealthy man just smiles smugly. Zhou tosses the invite aside and blames the Jian family for brutally beating his son, Liu. He shouts that he was planning to show mercy, but now he is going to make them pay dearly. Jan has absolutely no clue what he means and stammers that they had nothing to do with it. She quickly glances over at Xian, suspecting her cousin might be the culprit behind this mess. Right then, Yan grabs Axon's hand, loudly accusing her of ordering the attack just to get back at her. Axon quickly protests, saying she knows absolutely nothing about any beating. Liu's furious father refuses to believe her, demanding she stop lying and confess everything, or he will have her entire family banished from the city by tomorrow morning. The tense standoff is suddenly cut short when Wang arrives, and watch closely because standing right behind him is our main character, his daughter, and king. Rui spots her mom and waves happily. Holding her dad's hand, the sweet girl calls out that her father brought a special surprise for her. Joe looks at the new arrivals with absolute disgust, demanding to know who these nobodies are. The father sneers that the crippled loser in the wheelchair is Axon's husband, Lin Fang, and the little girl is their kid. Joe bursts into hysterical laughter, mocking them for bringing such trash here. But his obnoxious laughter is instantly cut short when Lin speaks up, asking what else he can do. Shin stares at her husband in absolute shock, unable to believe he is actually awake. Rui clings to her mom, proud that everyone can finally see she was telling the truth about her dad. Meanwhile, Joe scoffed, muttering that waking up is pointless when you are still a crippled loser. Our hero just scoffs and suddenly stands straight up from his wheelchair, releasing a terrifying aura. You and I know he is done playing nice. Stunned, Joe quickly threatens to snap Lin's legs anyway. With the main character standing on his own 2 feet, the entire room is speechless. Tears stream down his wife's face in sheer disbelief, but Lin gently reassures her that everything is under control. Suddenly, Yan lunges forward, hitting him and screaming about how he dares to wake up. Our hero effortlessly shoves her aside, leaving the loyal Ching to deal with this annoying nuisance. Ching obeys instantly, delivering a thunderous, satisfying slap right across Yan's face. Yet even after getting shut down, the delusional cousin still tries to threaten them both with empty words. Joe joins in, hurling insults and claiming that even if Lin woke up, he is still nothing but a worthless cripple. Liu's father nods in agreement, looking down on our hero with smug satisfaction. Lin is completely unfazed, calmly stating that in 5 minutes, the entire Liu family will be completely wiped from the city. King steps up to execute the order, making the arrogant elites burst into laughter. They laugh, thinking he cannot possibly bankrupt their massive empire. But their smiles vanish instantly when the old man's phone rings, informing him that their entire business is collapsing as terrified investors pull out. To make matters worse, every major bank has blacklisted them. Facing billions in sudden debt and instant bankruptcy, Liu's father is left standing there in completely silent, paralyzing shock. Joe starts panicking too, since his own family's wealth is tied directly to that company. Left with absolutely no options, the arrogant old man drops to his knees, begging Lin for mercy. But Lin just looks down at him with cold disdain. Joe, however, remains stubbornly arrogant, refusing to bow his head to someone he still considers a nobody, believing he can easily crush him. Our protagonist unleashes his terrifying, godlike aura, smiling coldly as he asks if the fool is ready for what comes next. Instantly, Joe regrets his big mouth, desperately squealing that Lin cannot touch a royal emissary sent directly to this banquet. He waves the royal badge, claiming he is here because Supreme Lin never recovered. Trust me, you and I are about to watch his entire world crumble. Word spreads that the Supreme Commander returned to the capital just to recover from injuries. While the crowd doubts this news, Joe steps up and confidently insists he would never spread lies. Out of nowhere, Lin snatches the royal emblem right out of his hand. Joe trembles in absolute terror, demanding to know how he dares steal from royalty. But the main character simply crushes the badge with a flash of blue energy, declaring that the rumors of the Supreme Commander's weakness are a flat-out lie. In this world, shattering a royal emblem is the ultimate sign of disrespect to the imperial crown. Yan frantically tells her grandfather they must cut ties with this madman before the family gets dragged down with him. Hearing these harsh insults thrown at her father, young Rui immediately steps in to defend him. She boldly shouts that her father is no coward like their family and can handle his own battles. Furious, Jan raises a hand to strike the child, yelling at her to shut up. But Lin uses his invisible energy to violently drag the woman away from his little girl. He coldly warns Jan never to disrespect the daughter of the supreme leader. Another sharp slap sends Shin's cousin crashing to the floor. She continues to scream that he is absolute trash, until his words finally sink in. A terrified Joe demands to know if he is truly the supreme of the Southern Territory. Just then, Ching arrives and respectfully presents his master's military uniform. Our hero slips into the grand armor in seconds, proudly revealing himself as the supreme commander of the Southern Territory, though they can simply call him Lin. He smiles warmly and confirms the truth, leaving a jealous Yan in absolute shock that her cousin got such a powerful husband. The entire crowd is utterly speechless to see the legendary Supreme standing right before them. Old Dr. Lee storms in, calling everyone complete fools for ignoring the sacred royal emblems on Lin's uniform. Guests gasp in disbelief to see the supreme imperial physician in such a place. Without hesitation, Dr. Lee drops to his knees before our main character, swearing his absolute loyalty to the very end. Lin tells him to rise, but check this out, Joe is still in complete denial. He loudly claims there is no way this worthless guy and the legendary supreme leader are the same person. He insists our hero just hired some actors to put on a cheap show. Annoyed by his sheer arrogance, Dr. Lee delivers a brutal punch straight to Joe's stomach, sending the young punk to the floor whining about an old man hitting him. He tries to threaten the doctor, claiming his powerful family will make them pay dearly. Dr. Lee just channels a sphere of energy in his palm, coldly promising to wipe out those so-called superiors of his. With one final, heavy blow to the face, Joe is sent flying right out the door. Dr. Lee then bows deeply, waiting for his master's next command. Lin calmly orders Wong to kick out the Zhou, Liu, and Jian families immediately since they were never invited anyway. Once these pests are cleared out, the grand celebration can finally begin. Realizing they are being thrown out, Jan desperately screams that Xin should be banished too, since she is technically part of their family. While they argue, Zhang finally connects the dots, realizing his brother-in-law is indeed the legendary Supreme Commander. His mother is flooded with intense shame for treating her son-in-law like complete garbage. Meanwhile, the elite nobles raise their glasses high, celebrating the spectacular return of their commander. They are thrilled to finally lay eyes on the legendary warrior. Meanwhile, the humiliated Jian family is dragged out into the cold streets. Jan continues to complain bitterly, but her grandfather admits it makes sense, remembering Lin was a legendary general before his injury. Still, the girl remains convinced our hero is just a massive fraud. She vows to seduce Lin himself, confident that Xin is completely unworthy of such a man. Meanwhile, deep in the imperial capital, the young emperor receives some highly disturbing news. Zhou was utterly crushed, and Lin not only threw him out of the party, but boldly destroyed the sacred imperial crest itself. Let's pause right here. The emperor's eyes flare with absolute rage. Assuming Qin is betraying the crown to join Lin, he orders his guard to strike immediately, but the servant trembles, stuttering that they are simply too powerful to approach. Furious, the emperor roars like a dragon, unleashing a binding purple energy that traps the terrified messenger. His voice thunders, ordering the Zhou family to crush their rivals, giving them full permission to deploy their number one weapon against Lin if needed. Barely drawing breath, the choked servant quickly agrees to the command. The emperor mocks Lin, muttering that he would have let the cripple live if he had stayed weak, but now he will crush him completely. Later, as the party winds down, Lin heads back home with his family. Xin's mother quietly whispers to her other daughter that today was a massive, incredibly profitable day. Meanwhile, Little Rai notices her mother's quiet sadness and whispers the worry to her dad. As they step inside, Li excitedly shows Zhang the dazzling jewelry gifted by the nobles, all given because she is the supreme mother-in-law. Zhang is completely dazzled by the glittering jewels, and both greedy women squeal with joy, shouting that they are finally filthy rich. Amidst all their shouting, Xin calmly tries to tell them that she and Lin have major news. The distracted women barely listen, so Xin gently asks her daughter to head to her bedroom so the adults can speak privately. She promises to tuck her in soon, and Lin promises the exact same thing. The sweet girl heads upstairs obediently, leaving all eyes locked dead on the main character. They ask exactly when his paralysis ended. Lin explains it happened the moment he saw his precious daughter getting bullied. Suddenly, Xin delivers a hard slap right across his face. Crying bitterly, she demands to know why he did not tell her sooner, saving them from so much agony. Lin gently catches her wrist, admitting he kept quiet out of fear she might choose that other suitor. Xin pulls away, turning her face to the side. She confesses through tears that she only entertained the other man to ensure their daughter had a safe, stable future. Lin pulls her into a tight, warm embrace, whispering that she and Rai are his entire world. He vows that from this moment on, nobody will ever lay a finger on them. Comforted, she hugs him back tightly. With his family safe, Lin shifts his focus to the battle ahead. He must fully awaken his royal bloodline and summon his 3 elite generals, White Tiger, Redbird, and Juwan, to begin his grand master plan. At breakfast the next morning, Zhang scrolls through her phone, asking if her brother-in-law is really the famous Supreme Commander, pointing out that his face is currently breaking the internet with news of his return. Lin calmly tells her she can believe whatever she wants. Desperate to get on his good side, Zhang lies, claiming she was always the one taking care of him. Lin mockingly thanks her for the imaginary kindness. Suddenly, the front door is kicked wide open. Xin's angry mother storms in clutching a mysterious envelope, with Zhang sneering right behind her. The furious old woman accuses Lin of being a lying imposter whose reckless actions will destroy their family. Xin quickly steps in, calmly asking her mother what is going on. The mother slams the envelope onto the table, demanding she look for herself. Xin rips it open as a smug Zhang brags that she dug into his past and exposed his entire fraud. The document claims the main character is just an unemployed nobody from Niulu village. Shin is completely stunned by the report, but she fiercely refuses to believe her husband is a scammer. Lin glares at Jang and icily demands she cut the act and state her real business. The arrogant cousin proudly announces that she is carrying the official orders of their grandfather. They are permanently kicked out of the family, Shin is fired, and they must leave this house immediately. And trust me, you and I are definitely going to want to see how Lin gets his revenge. Lin looks at his daughter Rai, softly asking if she wants to live facing her mother. Though trembling with fear, she quietly whispers yes. You and I are starting with Shin, who is absolutely terrified about their future after losing her job. But her husband promises she has nothing to fear, while Lee silently curses them both, calling them total losers. Lin completely ignores the toxic remarks, focused only on keeping his wife and daughter safe. He immediately calls Ching, ordering her to pick them up and bring them to the Bigshu Lake district. Hearing that, Yan just laughs in his face, mocking him because only millionaires can afford Bigshu Lake and accusing him of lying about being the supreme commander again. Our main character calmly tells his wife to follow him, and she trusts him instantly. Yan keeps sneering, asking if he plans to live on the streets with Shin and Rei. Just as they pack up, Lin remembers how this old house was once their wedding gift, but he is determined to leave it all behind. Right on cue, Ching arrives. Jang instantly recognizes the subordinate, and the puzzle pieces of her brother-in-law's identity finally fall into place. Realization hits her. Lin really is the supreme. Desperate to stay close to power, she drags her mother along. But Lee is totally convinced Lin is a fraud and refuses to move, while Yan grumbles in annoyance as the family finally drives away. A short while later, they arrive at the breathtaking new estate. Little Ray's eyes sparkle with pure excitement as she explores. Lin orders Ching to keep her safe, and she takes Rai to see every corner of their massive home. Seeing Shin's sad expression, Lin gently asks if something is wrong. She admits she is terrified that all of this is just a beautiful dream. Lin gently cups her face, promising her it is real and they will be happy again. Even though he has not fully recovered his strength, he vows to protect her. He declares with absolute conviction that no one will ever bully her again, but Shin still looks unsure. Eager to make her smile, Lin suddenly boasts that he bought the only seaside village in Binhai City, asking if she loves it. Shin bursts out laughing, teasing that the world shouldn't know the Supreme has such a cute side. Lin softly replies that this side is reserved only for his family. Right then, his phone rings, and Lin steps aside to answer. Shin takes Rai inside to give him space. On the call, Lin curtly says he is already on his way. His wife stops asking questions, and he explains it is an urgent military summons. Little Ray begs her dad to play, but pay attention here, because this sudden departure is about to change everything, as he tells Shin he will be gone for 2 or 3 days. Deep down, she fears being abandoned again, but forces a brave smile. She promises to watch Rai so he can focus on duty. He kisses her forehead, promising Ching will stay behind to keep them safe. Hours later, our hero arrives at the military headquarters and calls out for Long Tao. The emotional soldier rushes forward, hugging Lin and shouting how much he missed his commander. The other soldiers look completely baffled until Long roars that this man is Supreme Lin, the absolute leader of the Binhai military department. Instantly, every soldier bows his head in deep respect. Long explains he only took the Supreme Commander mantle while Lin was gone, but now he wants to return the title and finally retire. Lin questions why he would retire right after becoming a major general. Long sighs heavily, explaining the command structure has rotted, with nearly every high-ranking seat now seized by the corrupt royal family. He is just relieved Lin is back to bring some clean air to this toxic mess. Privately, Lin worries that even more royal snakes will soon crawl into their ranks. Seeing his grim look, Long asks if he truly expects the worst. The Supreme simply counters, asking if that wasn't the exact reason. Long summoned him here. Long admits it, laughing that he got so excited by Lin's return that he nearly forgot the main event. He pulls out a stack of classified files and hands them over. Inside are detailed documents showing the massive shift in military leadership since Lin was poisoned. The reports also contain critical, life or death updates regarding the chaotic border war. Lin scans the files, noting that things shouldn't be too disastrous if the royals hold the military. But Long cuts in instantly, warning that this is exactly the nightmare. These royals have zero clue how to lead. While the South is perfectly safe, you and I need to brace ourselves because 10 cities in the Northwest are being bombed with absolutely zero updates. All communication is completely blacked out. Lin tensely asks if the White Tiger was stationed in the Northwest and is the one who lost those 10 cities. Long nods grimly, explaining it has been 5 months since they last heard from their spy. Lin tears open a hidden letter left by the White Tiger, confirming the entire northwest frontier has fallen. The royal family is dirty, and the spy doubted he would survive until his master woke up. His last wish? Do not mourn him if he dies in battle. Pure fury burns in Lin's chest at his subordinate's sacrifice. Long points out how bizarre it is for the royal family to take total control when the Dragon Lord is the ultimate military authority. Lin admits he suspected foul play, already sent a shadow agent to investigate the capital. In his mind, he knows Shin'en is willing to burn the nation down for personal greed. 2 days fly by, and we cut to the Jian company. Shin's grandfather sits in tense silence, deeply questioning if firing his own granddaughter was a massive mistake. Yan, calmly applying her lipstick, sneers that Lin is just a fraud and Shin is useless, but the old patriarch remains highly skeptical. Ever since Shin left, every single investor pulled their money, leaving the family broke. Yan acts completely clueless, insisting things will be fine, but the old man slams the table in a furious rage, roaring that they are ruined. All their business partners ditch them to align with Lin. In a desperate panic, Yan blames her cousin, whining that none of this would happen if Shin hadn't run the finance department. Inhale, exhale. The grandfather snaps at her to hurry so they can go find the late patriarch's secret. Before his death, the old man left a letter to be opened only in absolute desperation. The grandfather believes this letter holds the ultimate key to saving their dynasty. Meanwhile, later that day, our hero returns home. Flicking on the lights, he accidentally wakes his wife, who fell asleep waiting on the couch. Shin stirs, sleepily asking if he is finally home. Lin drapes his coat over her, asking why she isn't in bed. She murmurs that she was waiting up for him. Relieved he is safe, she heads to the bedroom, telling him to rest too. Suddenly, Ching silently slips in through the window. Lin demands a report, and she delivers 3 major updates. First, since Shin left the company, all key partners cut ties with the Jians, causing catastrophic losses that push them to the brink of bankruptcy. Second, the Great Dragon Master is trapped under house arrest. He is safe for now, but his entire military authority has been handed over to a mysterious, nameless rival. Third, updates on the White Tiger's spy. 5 months ago, he vanished at the northwest frontier in a lawless zone called the Masterless Kingdom. Lin's face darkens, instantly recognizing the notorious place. Ching adds that the entire region is now nothing but ash. Lin nods silently, saying that is all he needs to know, realizing a devastating storm of internal and external chaos is heading their way. The next morning, Lin cooks a massive breakfast, waking everyone with its rich aroma. You and I would be just as shocked as Jiang, seeing the table set so beautifully by her brother-in-law. Lin explains he made this feast especially for Ray and Shin. Right then, his wife walks in, rubbing her exhausted eyes. He pulls out a chair, teasing that she is tired from staying up waiting for his return. Shin admits she was up late worrying about finding a new job. When suddenly, Lee's harsh voice completely shatters the peaceful morning mood. All right, you and I are starting with a mother-in-law demanding payback for nursing our main character during his 2-year coma. This greedy woman demands cash as payback, blaming him for their downfall now that he is finally awake. Shin immediately steps in to defend her husband, begging her mother to stop talking nonsense, but the insults just keep flying. Mortified by her mother's greed, Shin apologizes to her husband, but Lin just laughs it off, saying the old lady actually has a valid point. They really do need money for the house, after all. He then brings up a serious question, asking how her father actually passed away, and Shin reveals he died in a tragic car accident. Looking for deeper clues, Lin turns to Jiang, but she knows very little. She only suspects that Yan and his crew framed her father because their great-grandfather had chosen him as the sole heir to the Jian family fortune. The greedy relatives were furious, leaving Shin's family with absolutely nothing after his death. Enraged by this injustice, young Rai screams that they have to take back her grandfather's stolen inheritance. An annoyed Jiang snaps back, telling the kid to stay out of grown-up business, but Rai suddenly pulls out a mysterious necklace, claiming her grandfather left it to her for the right moment. Lin examines the necklace and instantly realizes it is crafted from rare evolution stones, while the curious Shin remembers seeing that very same piece in her late father's office. Our hero knows this is far from ordinary jewelry. The royal family holds incredible bloodline powers, but unleashing their true evolution requires a special catalyst and a highly classified technique. Suddenly, a brilliant beam of blue light erupts from the stone, wrapping around Lin's hand. A mesmerized Rai grabs the glowing gem before anyone can stop her, enveloping her in a blinding blue light that leaves her parents screaming in absolute terror. The light sinks directly into her stomach and vanishes. The little girl collapses but springs right back up, saying she feels something weird inside her belly, leaving Shin panicking. Lin explains that although he triggered the evolution stone, it chose Rai all on its own, meaning her legendary bloodline skill has awakened, and they have no other choice but to act. He immediately dials Dr. Lee, who picks up worriedly. But before Lin can even explain the situation, the phone slips from his hand and starts floating right in midair. Now, watch closely, because metal cutlery starts floating all around the room from Rai's insane new powers. Meanwhile, completely oblivious to this chaotic storm brewing at home, Jang is relaxing peacefully on the beach. Her quiet afternoon is shattered by terrified screams from the house as Lin rushes out carrying his daughter, with Shin close behind, screaming at her sister that they need to run immediately. Jang is left utterly confused as her family flees, but suddenly, a massive shadow blots out the sun. Looking up, she freezes in pure horror as a colossal wave towers over the beach. The gigantic wave crashes down, slamming them to the ground. Shin desperately screams for her sister to get up and run, but Jang is paralyzed with fear, convinced an army from the sea is attacking. Wasting no time, Shin grabs who she can and runs. Later, Dr. Lee meets with our hero, asking if he is absolutely certain about suppressing this legendary royal bloodline. Lin explains that Rai's true gift is electromagnetic manipulation, a legendary force so rare is barely mentioned in myths. He refuses to risk his daughter's life, so the plan must go on. He then asks if the 10 miles of coastline are clear. Qing confirms the area is secure, and Lin orders everyone to move. Boarding the vessel, preparations begin as Dr. Lee starts the intense acupuncture, warning Lin that there are 9 ceiling levels he must unlock from bottom to top. Our hero braces himself, mentally preparing for the agony of each needle. As Dr. Lee targets the key meridians, he extracts a dark energy from Lin's back, making him roar in absolute pain. Clenching his teeth, he forces himself to survive the torture. He has successfully shattered 5 seals. But Dr. Lee must push through the pain because our hero still needs to break 4 more. Rai watches with tear-filled eyes, her heart breaking as she sees her father suffer through this agonizing process. But the ritual is far from over, and as darkness cloaks the sea, a sinister figure watches their boat from the freezing water. And yeah, I know what you are thinking. This spy is not alone. Drawing a hidden blade, he tells his squad to strike. But get this, he is suddenly caught off guard by a terrifying figure. Lin stands there, glaring down with pure fury. The panicked spy scrambles to warn his master, but before he can utter a single word, a massive bolt of lightning blasts down, frying him instantly. Lin immediately reprimands Qing for her sloppy scouting, since she had guaranteed the waters were completely clear of hostiles. Shamed by her massive oversight, the girl bows her head and begs for forgiveness. The following morning, our hero returns home to tend to his burning, fever-stricken wife, leaving her to rest peacefully in bed. Shortly after, Lin calls Law on the side to discuss their next moves. Hearing his wife stir and weakly whisper, he rushes to her side, checking to see if she is okay. The very first thing Shin asks about is their daughter, and Lin quickly reassures her that Rai is safe with Dr. Lee. Meanwhile, in a separate room, the doctor tries to assess how Rai is feeling after her sudden awakening. The young girl thinks for a moment, then simply replies that she is not sure and needs to ask her dad. Just then, Lin walks in carrying Shin in his arms, asking how things are going. Rai joyfully leaps into her mother's warm embrace, thrilled to see her awake, but Lin gently pulls her back so her mother can rest. Dr. Lee then warns the Supreme that he must take the girl away with him, which immediately triggers Shin's panic as she demands to know why. Lin calmly explains that Rai has awakened the rare power of the royal bloodline and desperately needs guidance, and absolutely nobody is better suited for the job than Dr. Lee. The doctor chimes in, explaining that a brutal war is currently raging in the northwest, masked behind a false peace maintained by the royal family. He warns that Rai's awakening was completely unexpected, and the powerful figure currently ruling the capital is actually their deadliest mortal enemy. Without the power to defend themselves, Shin and her daughter would easily become the Supreme's ultimate weakness. Yet, even with that stark reality, Shin cannot bear the thought of letting her little girl go. She begs for Rai to remain at home, but Dr. Lee patiently reasons with her, promising he will only train the girl for a single year. He vows to pass down his entire life's knowledge and swears she will never be harmed. Our hero leaves the ultimate choice entirely in his daughter's hands, promising never to force her. Rai, picturing the monstrous enemies her father must face, fears he might end up paralyzed all over again. Determined to grow strong enough to shield her father, she bravely decides to train with the doctor. Praising her immense courage, Lee urges them to pack and get moving. Before departing, Rai hands her father a small notebook, asking him to keep it safe until their reunion. She sadly confesses that they barely spent any time together after his awakening, prompting a deeply apologetic Lin to promise he will do better. Eager to make a clean break, Rai drags the doctor out, promising she will return stronger than ever. Shin does not even get a proper chance to say goodbye before her little girl runs off. Walking away, Rai silently vows to become strong enough to protect her parents. Inside, Lin reassures his weeping wife that their daughter will be completely fine, though a worried Shin asks if he is leaving next. Lin nods, confirming that urgent reports from his men in the northwest require his presence, but promises to settle local affairs first. The next morning, arriving at the Jian family village, Shin asks in confusion why they are here. Lin promises that the truth will unfold soon, just as Shin's hostile grandfather and cousin walk up. The old man coldly demands to know why they have returned. Lin simply grabs a thick envelope from Qing's hand and tosses it to him. Inside are damning documents uncovered by his intelligence unit early this morning. As they look over the files, both of their faces turn pale with horror. Lin turns to Shin, exposing the shocking truth that her father's fatal car crash was actually a setup. The killer was Yan. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see how this revenge unfolds in the next chapter. Alright, you and I are about to dive into one crazy family drama. The old man slaps his granddaughter, realizing how blind he's been, shocking Shin. Meanwhile, Yan desperately screams that she never murdered their third uncle. Yan tries to defend her actions, claiming she just wanted to secure the family legacy for her father. She never expected they were actually dealing with two terrifying monsters. She claims her uncle was just unlucky to get ripped apart by those beasts. But our main character reads between the lines, immediately realizing someone else is pulling the strings behind this accident. Confused by the cryptic warning, Shin screams at her cousin to explain everything right now. Suddenly, a shadow whispers that Lin has spotted them. Lin just laughs coldly, mocking the Jian family for growing fat while letting dirty rats nest right inside their own walls. Like a flash of lightning, Qing charges toward the voice. Terrified, the old man begs Lin not to wipe out the Jin family over a simple misunderstanding. Lin calmly replies he just wants to clear out the pests. A second later, Qing crashes through a hidden wall and tackles a blue-haired intruder to the floor. The intruder laughs, bragging his mission is already complete. He tries to break free, sparking a brutal clash, but Qing absolutely dominates him. She drags him right back to the hall, tossing him at her master's feet. Cornered with nowhere to run, the man's body undergoes a horrific transformation, growing two demonic horns right from his forehead. Lin immediately recognizes this as a corrupt royal bloodline mutation. Yan points in absolute terror, screaming that this is the exact beast that slaughtered her uncle. Lin steps in front of Shin to shield her, letting Qing handle the trash. Drawing a glowing dagger, the loyal subordinate prepares to strike, while the mutant snarls that he'll tear them both apart. With flaming claws, the beast lunges. But Qing moves with flawless precision. In a single flash, her blade slices clean across his throat, leaving him choking on his own blood. Yan stares in absolute shock, unable to believe anyone could drop such a beast in one hit. As the mutant collapses lifelessly, Qing spots something hidden on his body. Retrieving the item, she hands it to her master. Lin examines the small device, realizing it's a transmitter, just as a cold voice crackles through. It's Joan. On the other end, Joe demands to know how Lin identified him. Lin's rage flares. He spared this fool at the banquet, but his patience is officially gone. Meanwhile, the Jian family elder turns pale. Terrified Lin will challenge Joe's incredibly powerful family. He desperately begs Lin for mercy, asking him to remember that the old master once saved his life. Lin coldly fires back. Yes, Master Zhang saved him, so he promised 30 years of protection to the Zhang family. But that oath died the moment they disrespected his wife. The old man tries to argue, claiming Yuxin will inherit everything, so he must reconsider. An angry Yan screams at her grandfather, insisting this family belongs to her and her dad. Ignoring their shouting, Lin turns to his wife and asks her to decide. Without missing a beat, Shin refuses to return, shocking her grandfather. After all, the disrespect and getting kicked out, she wants absolutely nothing to do with these toxic people. Respecting her choice, Lin takes her hand and walks right out, leaving the desperate old man screaming for them to wait. Lin declares this is fair to Master Zhang. He'll crush the Zhou family himself. As of right now, any debt between him and the Jian family is officially cleared. Outside, the old man and Yan, seethed with rage, faces twisted in anger. Leading Shin away, Lin mentions he must travel to the capital for 2 days to handle some business, leaving Qing behind to protect her. Shin worries she's putting too much pressure on her husband, but Qing assures her it's just a quick matter to settle in the capital. Curious, Shin asks about this mysterious figure Lin keeps referencing. Qing reveals the name. It's Shen Yan, the most formidable powerhouse of the capital's royal family. Shin doesn't recognize the name, but a cold shiver runs down her spine. Qing tells her to head home while Lin handles the rest. Meanwhile, over at the Zhou family mansion, the patriarch is demanding updates on their investigation. He fumes over having zero leads on Lin or the Jian family. An advisor in a green hat warns that the young emperor's patience is wearing thin. Now you and I need to pay close attention here. If the Zhou family fails, they'll be completely discarded. The patriarch nods in grim agreement, especially since his own son got brutalized by Lin. The advisor suggests exploiting Lin's weakened state to eliminate him in one decisive blow. But suddenly, a massive explosion shatters the quiet room. Lin strides in, ruthlessly dragging Zhou by his hair. His icy glare sweeps the room, looking for the boss. The green-hatted advisor steps up, demanding to know who dared barge in. Shivering in terror, Zhou screams that this is Lin. Instead of panicking, the old man bursts into maniacal laughter, mocking Lin for walking straight into a trap. He brags that Lin just spared them the hassle of a manhunt. Slamming his cane down, the patriarch triggers a trap, dropping a massive steel cage right over Lin. He sneers, telling Lin to surrender the Yan family and give up his royal bloodline to live like a dog. Otherwise, his head will be delivered to the young emperor on a silver platter. Zhou's father begs the patriarch to stop, yelling that his own grandson is trapped inside. As Zhou screams for mercy, Lin tosses him aside with a cold smile, muttering that he hates sharing cages with dogs. The last time he was caged, his captor died. Zhou shrieks for his father, but the ruthless grandfather warns Lin that defiance means death, proving he cares absolutely nothing about his own grandson's life. Clicking his cane, he sends a surge of high-voltage lightning into the cage. Zhou is electrocuted, screaming in agony, while Lin stands completely unfazed, absorbing the shock without a scratch. The frantic father begs the old man to stop, but the cold patriarch shrugs off his grandson's death. Once Lin is dead, the young master's reward will make up for everything. Lin scoffs, asking if Shenyan already thinks he is emperor. He finds their blind loyalty hilarious, especially since Shenyan forgot to mention that these pathetic parlor tricks would never work on him. I know what you're thinking, but watch this. Lin literally rips the steel cage apart with his bare hands, leaving the old man trembling in pure disbelief. Panicking, the elder summons dozens of armed soldiers. Feeling safe behind his army, he orders them to open fire. Bullets rain down on Lin, only to bounce harmlessly off his energy shield. Dashing forward, Lin brutally dismantles the snipers. A second wave fires specialized arrows, but he casually catches one midair between his fingers. The old man boasts these are special armor-piercing rounds, designed specifically to counter the royal family, now modified to serve the young emperor's will. The soldiers unleash a relentless barrage while detonating gasoline barrels behind Lin. A massive explosion engulfs the entire area. Sure of his victory, the old man boasts that destroying his mansion was worth killing the threat. But his celebration ends instantly. Lin steps out of the roaring flames completely unharmed, moving like a ghost. In a single, blinding flash, he slices the old man down. The dead patriarch hits the floor, leaving Zhou's father as the sole survivor. Desperate, he shrieks for their ultimate weapon, and two massive, monstrous figures lumber into the room. The boss barks that failure means death under Master Shen's orders. Lin spots their mutated royal bloodline fragments, and trust me, you and I are about to see an absolute bloodbath in the next episode. Alright, you and I are jumping right into a wild fight. They swarmed him together, but Lin was way faster, slamming a heavy punch into that blue monster's face. A red demon tried to catch him off guard, but got blocked and tossed like a rag doll. Mutations made these beasts faster and uglier, but they still could not match the Supreme. Lin was curious about their weird bodies, but he had zero time to waste. Whipping out a gun from his case, he fired precise shots right through their defenses, finally triggering a massive explosion that burned the entire room to ashes. Meanwhile, Zhou's panicked father ran to the office to warn the young emperor. Shen Yan flashed on the screen, demanding to know what went wrong. Shaking, he reported that Lin invaded the Zhou estate, forcing them to deploy their ultimate weapon. Hearing this, the Dragon Lord demanded to speak to the family patriarch. The boss could not admit his father died fighting the Supreme, so he lied, claiming the elder was still battling. But Shen saw the despair on his face and told him to stop lying. Suddenly, a hand stabbed straight through his shoulder as deadly lightning fried his body. Lin had arrived. The Dragon Lord just laughed, praising the Supreme for wiping out their weapons completely alone. Lin agreed that those special armor-piercing rounds could actually harm the royal bloodline, but he instantly mocked Shen anyway, noting that weapons only work when paired with proper containment. Shen silently cursed the Zhous for being so stupid, while Lin tapped his head, mocking him for lacking the brains to match him. The Dragon Lord calmly replied that he controlled the entire royal family, and Lin was only alive because of his massive reputation among the citizens. Our hero shot back, calling it utterly ridiculous that Shen slaughtered his own royal relatives just to satisfy his personal greed for power. Calling Lin naive, Shen argued sacrifice was required for true power. Suddenly, a flashing countdown caught our hero's attention. Now pay attention here that Zhou's left a self-destruct bomb, and as Shen ranted about losing his ultimate artifact, a massive explosion swallowed the entire mansion. Meanwhile, back home, Shin woke up in a panic with a terrible feeling. She tried calling her husband to check on him, but his phone was completely dead. Hearing the commotion, Qing rushed inside to check on her. Shin confessed she was terrified about Lin after having a horrible nightmare. The loyal subordinate promised the master was fine, but offered to trigger their secret emergency line if she really wanted to speak with the Supreme. Shin hesitated, realizing she might dangerously distract him. So she decided against calling and told Qing to go get some rest. Qing agreed to stay on standby, while Shin returned to bed, praying that Lin was safe. By morning, Shin was hospitalized at Binhai Center after falling ill overnight. Lin rushed to her bedside, immediately demanding answers from her doctor. The doctor assured him the tests were clear, blaming exhaustion and prescribing rest. But Lin stared him down, sensing there was something else they were hiding. The doctor sighed and admitted he found a strange anomaly. A deep scan of her brain while she slept revealed highly unusual, abnormal activity. Handing over the medical report, he explained that this shockwave resembled a psychiatric disorder, likely triggered by recent trauma. He promised to monitor her closely and run further tests later. Out in the streets, an angry mob protested, demanding the head of state step forward. Lin watched the chaos unfold through the window with a grim expression. Suddenly, Qing burst into the room in absolute panic, reporting that the situation in the northwest had spiraled completely out of the royal family's control. I know what you're thinking, things are getting crazy. The web was flooded with battle details, and as crowds roared, Lin asked if the northern or western military branches had reacted. His aide replied that their informants had exposed dangerous enemy spies inside both military departments. With Shenyang completely overwhelmed, their secret treaty was leaked, exposing the ugly truth to the whole nation. Jing added that global online petitions were demanding our general take command immediately. She asked for his next move. Lin knew the public wanted Binhai's current military commander fired on the spot due to his corrupt ties to the royals. With the people begging him to lead, our hero made his choice, ordering Qing to keep the area secure while he set out on his mission. Over at military headquarters, Long snapped at an intruder, but calmed down once he saw Lin. The Supreme scolded him for napping while the northwest was burning. Saluting quickly, the soldier listened as Lin explained he wasn't there to pull rank, but to recruit him for a dangerous northwest mission. Long hesitated, arguing that no official squad should deploy without proper command. Lin clarified this was just a personal request for a wingman. Unaware of the leaks, Long gasped in shock. Getting pumped up, he declared he only needed a rifle to put down those enemy invaders one by one. He swore to follow his master to save China. Moments later, a chopper landed on the roof, where Wang waited to receive his final instructions before takeoff. Lin handed over his private army's emblem, putting Binhai's safety in his hands. He warned him to use this symbol only as a desperate, final resort to counter the Black Armor forces. Smiling, Wang promised the city would stay safe. After tucking away the badge, he pulled out a gold pocket watch and handed it to Lin. Inside was Shin's photograph, which she wanted him to have. Lin thanked him sincerely, whispering a promise to return home safe to her. Long teased that romance only makes a warrior soft, urging him to move. As they turned, a sudden shout made them stop. Surprised, Lin asked how he even got there. The blue-haired man smirked, claiming no place in China was off-limits. Lin grinned at Fun's arrival, while Long stood utterly speechless, seeing the legendary Dragon Master. With him on board, Lin knew their odds of winning had skyrocketed. The three stepped onto the airship, leaving Binhai far behind. Mid-flight, Fun explained that the Dragon Master title was meant for commoners without royal blood, serving as a check to keep the imperial family's military power balanced. But Fun had been too deep in his research to notice Shenyan's assassins. Kidnapped and placed under tight house arrest, he was forced to study the dangerous fusion of imperial and royal bloodlines. Lin asked if the experiment worked. Fun admitted that the genetic fusion succeeded initially, as Shen Yan sacrificed countless royal remains to suppress his own unstable bloodline. Fun only escaped because a delayed ritual bought him time. Lin nodded in relief, glad his ally was finally safe. And as we wrap up, they're 50 miles from the city, prepping to dive headfirst into battle with zero hope of backup. Trust me, the real fight is just beginning. All right, you and I are diving into a wild ride today. Long and Fun shout they are ready, and the three leap right out of the helicopter. Later, they touch down in Yingxiao, a town in the northwest. Long immediately notices their comms are dead, and they have absolutely zero intel on this territory. Long tries to ask a local for help, introducing himself as a Chinese soldier. But the man just slams the door right in his face. Yep, they are definitely not welcome here. Our main character tells them they will get the info themselves, asking Long for their distance to the fort. Long checks the map and says they have 30 kilometers to go past those massive sand dunes. While planning their next move, they spot a little boy spying on them from behind some rocks. Our hero walks over, offering sweet chocolate in exchange for some quick answers. He asks if the kid knows where the headquarters are. The boy snatches the candy instantly, asking if these Chinese soldiers are actually here to take down the local bandits. Once Lin nods, the kid tells them to follow him. As they walk, they find out that several dangerous royal family intruders have already locked down Yin Xiao. Spinning a key on his finger, the boy explains that nobody here dares to help soldiers. His father changed completely after his brother died, and since all the brave men were murdered, information has totally dried up. He warns them that this is his only favor, and after this, they are on their own. He unlocks a hidden door with his key, revealing a secret underground shelter. Inside, they find a group of heavily wounded Chinese soldiers covered in deep scars. The boy proudly tells them that he and his father saved these men last year. But these soldiers are terrified, totally unsure if Lin and his crew are friends or foes. Lin instantly notices their accents match the local dialect of this city. Lowering his gun, Lin says he is not here to force them to protect royalty, he just wants them to defend their home. Meanwhile, a brutal gang called the Sandwolves hears that more soldiers have arrived. The enemy leader fires his gun into the air, screaming for the villagers to surrender the soldiers. He promises a reward, but everyone is too terrified to step outside. That same villager who slammed the door on Long is now cowering inside his house, while the intruders try to kick his door off its hinges. Pay close attention here. The tattooed leader threatens to burn the entire village to the ground, completely unaware that a deadly sniper is already lining up a perfect shot. The Sandwolves have no clue they are in the crosshairs. Thinking they have won, they light their torches, ready to burn down the houses and force the locals to talk. Suddenly, a bullet rips through one bandit's head, dropping him instantly. As his partner spins around in panic, Lin shadows behind him and takes him out without a sound. The Sandwolves are caught completely off guard by this level of speed and precision. In fact, it is so quiet that the other bandits keep yelling, oblivious to the Grim Reaper behind them. Lin tosses a pebble to distract a guard, mocking their terrible awareness. The bandit turns and fires wildly with both weapons, but Lin shuts him down effortlessly. Lin coldly tells him that basic toys like guns will never work against him. In total shock, the dying intruder realizes he is facing the legendary Supreme. Our hero pins him down, aiming straight at his skull, telling him to pay better attention in his next life. One clean shot, and it is lights out. Another bandit sees this and tries to hide, but gets caught trying to sneak up on Lin. Shaking with fear, he begs for mercy. Lin simply asks if he showed mercy to the innocent locals. The guy stays silent, and just like that, he is finished. Now, I know what you are thinking. That villager watching through the door crack is absolutely speechless right now. Lin turns to him, ordering him to stay inside until the trash is cleared. The trembling man asks if China is truly here to save them, and Lin replies with a simple yes. Minutes later, the Sandwolf backup arrives. Perched on a rooftop, our hero gets a perfect view of the arriving squad. At just the right second, he leaps down, firing both pistols to shred the enemy ranks as they scatter. From his window, the old man watches in absolute awe as Lin takes on a whole mob alone. Switching to hand-to-hand combat, Lin drops them with devastating, bone-shattering punches. The villager suddenly remembers the only other monster he has seen with this kind of terrifying power, the leader of the Sandwolves. The backup commander gets furious, seeing his men terrified of just one soldier, screaming that they are pathetic losers. But suddenly, an eerie silence falls over his squad, and absolute fear grips him. Boom! Lin appears right behind him, having already taken out the mercenary beside him. The boss points his gun in a panic, but Lin literally crushes the steel barrel with his bare hand. Seeing their boss completely overpowered, two soldiers turn tail and run to save their own skins. The rest of the squad immediately follows, fleeing at full speed. Our heroes wait on the ridge, raining precise sniper fire on the fleeing thugs. In that tense standoff, the female boss calls Lin a coward for pointing a gun at her. Lin just glares at her coldly. He asked if she thought it was honorable when her entire group pointed heavy weapons at the unarmed citizens of his country. To him, there is nothing heroic about throwing innocent people into misery for a petty land grab. The boss smirked, admitting he is right, and dares Lin to pull the trigger. but she claims she holds the key to reaching their main headquarters and can actually help him. Right then, she pulls off her cap, revealing she is actually a woman. Their talk is cut short when Long reports that the escaping mercenaries have been surrounded and wiped out. But he freezes mid-sentence when he notices this woman talking so casually with Lin. Suddenly, she sneers, saying her head hurts just looking at the supreme trash, his puppet, Dragon Master, and little Long. This lady clearly knows her enemies inside and out. Long aims his gun, completely furious that she dares insult his master and the Supreme. But she tries to bargain for her life, offering to reveal the headquarters only if they let her walk free. Lin flatly replies that he does not make deals with mysterious strangers. She keeps trying to act tough, behaving like she's the one holding all the cards. Losing patience, Lin grabs her by the throat, lifting her completely off the ground. Gasping for air, she finally breaks and promises to lead them straight to Eaglehead Castle. Falling to the dirt, she gasps heavily for breath, muttering that she knew the Supreme had finally returned, but never expected him to be this ridiculously strong. Now, she is genuinely terrified. Lin starts handing out orders right away. Long will guard the girl, while Fun organizes the troops in Eagle Point City. From this moment on, they must defend this stronghold at all costs. Fun nods, immediately putting that wounded commander in charge of organizing the men. Later, the girl walks with her hands bound, feeding them bits of intel as they march. She explains that the Sandwolves patrol twice every single day, and they will send massive backup if their first squad fails to report back. Our hero cuts her off, asking the exact distance to the castle. She vaguely says it is just over a few dunes, but checking the map, Fun realizes she is lying. They are actually heading toward the wasteland. Long draws his gun. And trust me, you and I are about to see if she survives his absolute limits. Alright, you and I are diving into a wild ride where this mercenary plays victim, claiming she only wanted to protect Lin from 10,000 men. Suddenly, a yellow car flies over the dunes, crashing down right in front of them. Lin immediately asks his guide who these newcomers are. She warns him they are the brutal Vultures Patrol, infamous for executing every Chinese they find. Their bald boss steps out, declaring he is keeping the girl while his goons can divide the rest of the survivors. Lin snatches his ally's blade and, in a lightning-fast blur, decimates the entire squad. The mercenary freezes, watching this supposedly legendary unit get wiped out instantly. Our main character snaps her back to reality while tossing the dagger back to his partner. With a chilling stare, he demands she start telling the absolute truth. Terrified, she finally agrees to guide them but warns that Eaglehead Castle is a fortress, protected by 24-hour sensor recognition and advanced radar systems. Now, can they slip by unnoticed? Fun scoffs, bragging that hacking the local signal repeater and hijacking the live security feed was an absolute walk in the park. Long praises his buddy's brilliant hacking skills, but Lin cuts the chatter, ordering everyone into the vehicle because they must move immediately. Moments later, their stolen ride tears through the desert toward the castle. As the girl warns they are close, a sniper locks them in his crosshairs. The sniper hesitates, recognizing the car but realizing the bald leader is missing. Lin, already tracking the hidden sentries, gives the green light, shouting for Long to fire. Long climbs onto the roof, picking off the hostile snipers one by one. Dead bodies tumble down the dunes, while others get crushed under their speeding tires. Now watch this, she warns they are sitting ducks, but Lin coldly snaps back that stealth was never the plan. Guards rush to investigate, only to freeze as Lin's car leaps right over their heads. They desperately reach for the intruder alarm, but Long is way faster, detonating nearby gasoline barrels. Massive explosions rock the outpost. The mercenary screams that the castle holds Chinese hostages, warning that Long's reckless firepower might end up killing the very people they came to save. Lin completely ignores her panic, calmly asking Fun how long it will take to bypass the fortress defense grid. Fun, the Dragon Master, checks his screen, confirming they are almost in. Suddenly, a Sandwolf gunship intercepts them, and she screams they must escape this heavy aerial threat. Lin tells Long to take the wheel and keep driving straight. Then, without a second thought, he leaps straight into the sky. The helicopter crew watches in horror as Lin vaults so high he is staring through their cockpit glass. A heavy Vulcan cannon targets him, but he literally rips it off barehanded. A massive explosion paints the sky. Long laughs, cheering his legendary boss, who lands back in the passenger seat and tells him to gear up. Inside the fortress, enemy forces assemble a desperate defensive line. But as Lin's eyes glow a terrifying red, a massive lightning strike completely shatters their heavy gates. Their car crashes through the burning debris, storming the base and crushing the defending Vulture soldiers. Lin unleashes an oppressive aura, cracking the very concrete under his boots. Suddenly, the stone wall explodes, and the smiling castle leader wonders who this beast is. A massive tank rolls up, locking its main turret directly onto Lin. The guards cheer as Chief Ding takes command, launching a high-explosive shell right at our hero. Lin effortlessly dodges and kicks the live shell straight back at the enemy line. The resulting explosion wipes out dozens of guards, infuriating the boss, who tries to run Lin over with the tank but fails miserably. Lin catches the tank barehanded, sending currents of electricity through the metal. Ding senses his energy but refuses to back down. Can you believe this? He catches a literal tank shell barehanded, stopping the blast right in the barrel completely unfazed. Calling Ding a pathetic coward, Lin breaches the inner facility, locating the hostages. A terrified mother, holding her child, asks if he was sent to save them. Confirming their rescue, Lin tells them to follow. Meanwhile, outside, a massive shootout erupts. Long happily plows through enemies, leaps out, and drags the mercenary along. Suddenly, a freed hostage runs to hug her, crying out Sister Yibing in relief. The mercenary smiles, relieved the kid is safe, but the little boy glares at Long, demanding to know why she is tied up. Lin steps in to explain. He tells them she is a dangerous killer who shows no mercy, but the boy protests, crying that they would all be dead without Sister Yibing. He unties her himself, begging her to explain. The other hostages speak up, backing the boy. They explain they were trapped at the northwest border by the conflict when she saved them. Hearing this, Lin releases her. She sighs in relief, assuring him her hands have never been stained with the blood of her own people. She reveals her true identity as a deep-cover operative, spying on the Sandwolves to feed crucial intel to the Chinese military. She learned that three major factions, Sandwolves, Ancient Snake, and Grizzly Bear, are at war, meaning their safest bet is to withdraw immediately. Ying proposes a retreat, but she knows Lin will never run. Indeed, he orders Long to escort the hostages back while he pushes forward to reclaim their land. Long grins, refusing to leave his boss's side, while Ying demands to join them, eager to see her homeland freed. She argues they will get lost trying to find the Ancient Snake territory without a guide. Lin hesitates, wanting protectors for the hostages, but they both beg him to agree. Lin yields, deciding to gather supplies so everyone can move. With the immediate crisis resolved, his thoughts drift back to his wife, praying she is safe. Cut to Axon's estate. Xing gently urges Lin's wife to get some rest, pointing out she has been awake since yesterday morning. The loyal assistant tries to persuade her, warning that the Supreme would be devastated to see his beloved overworking herself for this new business venture. Xin insists she only wants to do her part. Her research reveals a rogue partner split from the Jian family to build a rival company capable of challenging the powerful Mei family. Though the intel is indirect, Xin knows a massive storm is brewing over Binhai City. Exhausted, her eyes drift over to their family portrait. Lin and Rui are her entire world. Deeply moved, the loyal subordinate silently vows to the boss that she will protect his wife and stabilize Binhai City. And that's where we leave them, with Lin kissing his wife's photo, promising to return home. Trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. Alright, you and I are diving into a wild story where the next day arrives and the hostages prep their last supplies. They have enough food and safety to survive on their own. The old man thanks our protagonist, promising they will be fine heading to Eagle City. Lin feels grateful. Hours later, the crew reaches the most chaotic city in the northwest, which the brutal invaders have turned into a total disaster. Ying says they have to keep moving. Long looks at his boss to ask if they should go, but realizes our main character has already surged far ahead. Long wants to follow, but sees Ying and Fun staring at the map in total shock. They are in no man's land. Long asks what that means, and Ying explains it is a lawless place where supernatural powers completely fail. Right then, our hero suddenly stops flying and starts falling. Long thinks it looks cool, but Ying yells that they are actually in massive trouble. As Lin plummets, a girl is relaxing in her building pool. Everything is peaceful until the glass roof shatters and Lin crashes right into the water before her. Her guard rushes in to check the noise. Our hero is still confused about why his power vanished when suddenly a gun is pressed to his head. The guard has no idea who he is, but the girl recognizes him instantly. She knows he is the Supreme and wonders how he got here so fast. Intrigued, she hugs Lin from behind and asks him to be her lover. Our boy immediately replies that he is married, making her snap at him for rejecting her. Determined to win him, she slides her hand down. Instantly, Lin grabs her hand in a tight grip, warning her he will destroy her. The guard asks if he should shoot. Losing his temper, our hero crushes the guard's gun with his bare hand. This only makes the woman want him more. Without powers, his raw strength is still insane. The buff guard throws a massive punch, forcing everyone to run from the thick smoke. Too proud to admit he cannot win, He suggests they tie Lin up and sell him. The girl gets incredibly annoyed by his stupidity. How can they tie him up if they cannot even scratch him? She states they need a real plan to earn the protection of the South Supreme. Now, Bok, our hero, bursts out to attack, but the guard quickly begs him to wait. Unfortunately, she is already dressed now. She boldly tells our main character that he is coming with her, asking him what he thinks about that deal. He coldly replies that he is going to wipe out the sandwolves, including her. But she just smiles, confident he will agree to her terms. Flaunting her incredible body, she claims to have exactly what he wants. And maybe she does, but we know not everything that glitters is gold. Our hero wonders if she knows his true identity to blackmail him. But she explains that as the Supreme, he must have felt the strange magnetic field on Earth, disrupting everyone's special powers. She says that without his powers, even the Supreme will struggle. But our guy says that is not an issue. She keeps pushing, explaining there is an ancient, mysterious seal in the Earth's core causing this issue. If he breaks it, his powers return. To find it, he must fully trust and cooperate with her. She asks if he is down. Sensing her hidden malice, he demands to know her real goal, but an armed guard suddenly interrupts, asking who fired the shots. Turns out, her soldier got captured without us even realizing. The guard calls our hero boss, saying the rest of the gang likely heard the gunshots. He asks how many of them arrived and which tribe they are. The captive says they are sandwolves, so our hero decides they should move. The stunning woman with curves that defy physics suggests they cooperate since they share goals. The guard with the gun completely blushes, totally distracted. You and I can see the trap, but she suddenly pulls a weapon, warning against carelessness. Honestly, our hero is not even fazed. To him, women are already deadly weapons. So he is just looking at a deadly weapon holding more weapons. Meanwhile, thugs with cheap AK-47s are surrounding the building. She tells her friend to act, and suddenly the whole room is flooded. The guys hide near the back door as the invaders enter and see two gorgeous ladies. Instantly, the men are hypnotized by the seductive vibe. She asks if they want to join the fun, and they immediately strip, expecting a good time. As they lunge at the girls, the white-haired beauty ducks and pulls her friend underwater. That is when the hidden soldiers open fire, totally wiping out the foolish thugs. The two sirens hiding underwater are completely safe. They slowly rise from the flooded trap, showing off their absolute killer bodies once again. Too bad, the heavy smoke ruins the view we wanted to enjoy. They do not even know each other yet. The woman introduces herself as Binji and asks the other girl her name. She replies that she is Suli, leader of the ancient snakes. Binji looks highly suspicious, asking what leader means. They clearly do not trust each other. Our hero walks up and says it is all done. The guard asks for help carrying the bodies, while the pink-haired kid cheers that this win was totally refreshing. The other guy kiss asses, praising his master for working so hard. But this absolutely ridiculous scene does not move our cold main character at all. He is just wondering what the snake leader's true goal is. Meanwhile, the scene shifts. A woman is thanking a man, saying things would have failed without his help. The man says she is being too kind, as he was just doing his duty. He then hands her a list of Bin Hai's political and business alliance members. Scanning the papers, the blonde girl notices several influential names involved in politics. She questions why they are all representing emerging new powers. He explains she currently lacks the resources to join the top police and business alliance. She agrees, feeling truly grateful. Without backing, especially from the powerful Wang family, she would have never even become president. After thinking it over, she agrees with his suggestion. She then proposes that they also join forces with these emerging powers. Even the man is surprised by her boldness. She explains there is data about a distorted magnetic field absorbing bloodline energy, which is exactly what Shen Yan wants. The man gets uneasy, mentioning they found a military traitor who was studying the meteorite. But in the blink of an eye, his tone completely shifts. He says that just proves the meteorite's true value. She agrees, telling him to use the lab to attract investors, and to build a new team once the Northwest is fully stable. They agree and move on. Once again, he praises her excellent choice, while another woman arrives to congratulate Miss Zhang. She smiles, remembering an old saying that the husband handles outside affairs while the wife manages the home. She wonders if she is doing a good job. And that is where we leave things tonight, with everyone celebrating as the host announces President Jiang Shui. Trust me, you and I need to see what happens next. Let's dive into this wild story, starting with a gorgeous lady stealing the spotlight in a stunning dress. She takes the microphone, thanking the crowd for their endless support, and warmly congratulates everyone on behalf of her whole team. As the lively celebration continues and people mingle, a mysterious girl in a white cloak keeps to herself in deep thought. Quietly, she vows to protect everyone around her, absolutely no matter what. Cut back to our main crew, sitting amidst a pile of ruins. The braided hair guy is getting patched up after getting hurt. His teammate playfully teases him, saying that for a tough guy, he really cannot handle pain. Whining like a little kid, he protests that he never expected the local weeds to be so toxic. Meanwhile, his other teammate is completely speechless. She only asked him to clear the path, yet he somehow got poisoned by grass. Talk about embarrassing. He mumbles a quick apology, but he is barely paying attention because he is currently staring at a breathtaking view ahead. Unfortunately, some annoying white smoke is blocking the path, but luckily, it quickly disperses. One of the women offers to guide them out since she knows these tunnels perfectly. Still, you can practically feel the thick tension between them. She coldly tells her rival to find her own way out. As the two women bicker over nothing, our main character just stands there, silently observing this absolute circus. Fed up with the attitude, the white-haired lady commands her guard to strike the girl down, but the guard hesitates. He secretly thinks there is no way he can hit someone with such flawless, delicate skin. His boss instantly snaps, furious that he is throwing away his loyalty over a pretty face. Meanwhile, the target of their anger just giggles, finding the entire dramatic showdown absolutely hilarious. It is pure comedy watching that lady try to act tough with such useless subordinates. Just then, a pink-haired guy strolls over to ask what the joke is. They share a glance, both agreeing it is quite a spectacle. The boss rants that while being ugly is fine, being ugly and a traitor is completely unforgivable. Trying to save face, the guard mutters that he might be ugly and disloyal, but at least he remains humble. Hey, at least he has that going for him. Finally, our main character loses his patience and shuts down the bickering. He warns them all to cut the drama and focus on their main objective. Petty arguments are a waste of time. Now pay attention here, because his dominant vibe totally charms the girl. As she praises him, his companion notes that their leader possesses some truly terrifying, monstrous power. Supreme Ling definitely earns his reputation, but the guy is completely heartless. Watching from the sidelines, the quiet girl is visibly annoyed, grumbling to herself about how irritating and complicated humans can be. A lone bird glides overhead, which seems normal enough, as the team finally pulls up to their destination. According to their map, they are now entering the dangerous domain of the ancient serpent tribe. Aiming his weapon skyward, the pink-haired rebel complains that the annoying bird is testing his patience. He suggests shooting it down for a quick snack, but his partner urges caution, reminding him not to eat random wild creatures. What if the creature is carrying some deadly disease? Naturally, that warning goes ignored as he pulls the trigger. The shot connects, revealing that their target is actually a massive, ominous vulture. A fresh drop of blood splatters right onto his head, yet the target keeps flying. Confused, he wonders if he somehow missed, only to realize his bullet did strike something. But it wasn't the bird itself. His bullet actually struck a severed hand clutched in the vulture's talons. Refusing to back down, he aims once more, but before he can fire, the irritated girl steps in, unleashing her spiritual energy. She channels her magic, preparing a devastating blow. But of course, that annoying white fog rolls in to block the view. Just as she prepares to strike, a sudden, deafening blast echoes through the air. The giant beast plummets from the clouds, crashing directly onto the ground. The marksman responsible, none other than our main character, with a single, flawless strike. Immediately, they inspect the severed limb the creature carried. Examining the scene, the tribal lady senses a dark omen. She points out that such bizarre occurrences are extremely rare within serpent boundaries. Our hero approaches, dryly commenting that the locals have a pretty bizarre welcoming committee, then points to her staff. She explains it is the double serpent scepter, a holy relic designed to tame beasts, though it clearly failed against this rabid scavenger. You and I both know the bird is not the issue. He is staring at this severed human arm. Why would a scavenger carry a piece of a person? Where did it originate? The four-eyed scholar steps forward, requesting to inspect the limb. He observes that the blood has not clotted, suggesting the victim might still be breathing, or at least met their end recently. Based on the unique markings and texture, this limb definitely belongs to a member of the serpent tribe. The tribal woman gasps in pure horror, realizing this tragedy struck one of her own kin. Suddenly, an eerie breeze blows from the direction of their home. A chilling thought crosses her mind: could their settlement already be under siege? Meanwhile, we shift our focus to another location. Inside the central arena of Binhai City, military strategists pore over maps detailing the troop layouts of the rival factions. With tensions rising and scouts lurking nearby, enemy spies could easily be hiding in plain sight. They must strike before the rival legions advance. Panic spreads that hostile agents have already crossed into Binhai. Their female commander barks orders, demanding to know if the elite black armored guard is ready to defend Supreme Lee. The troops hesitate briefly, then roar in unison to show their absolute loyalty. Nodding in approval, she praises their determination just as a scarred officer rushes forward with a highly critical report. He reveals that the Azure Dragon faction has already deployed elite operatives throughout the 8 major sectors of Binhai. Furious, she reprimands him for shouting classified military intelligence, but since the secret is out, she demands he point out their exact coordinates on the war table. The officer nervously rubs his neck, stammering that he will point them out immediately. He leans over, confidently claiming he remembers the exact spots, only to awkwardly admit he completely forgot them. After racking his brain, he pointlessly gestures toward Hongong Street, before suddenly correcting himself and suggesting it might actually be the Lufang Clinic. Qing instantly tenses up, knowing that young Rui and Dr. Li are currently resting at that very clinic. Acting on instinct, she orders an immediate mobilization to investigate every suspicious coordinates, dragging the foolish officer along. The lieutenant is filled with dread, realizing the mastermind likely anticipated their defense strategy to compromise the heart of Binhai. If that is true, their adversaries are already several steps ahead. Patrolling the dark alleys, Qing demands to know the location of his hidden sentries. The officer gestures toward a shadowy corner. As they advance, her junior quietly whispers, questioning how this bumbling commander even traveled here. Azure tells her she will see soon enough. Meanwhile, Qing's suspicions of a traitor inside the Black Armor Division intensify. The man is clearly simple-minded, but he is currently her prime suspect. In his youth, Azure was constantly thrashed for petty theft, a greedy thief who could never be satisfied. He only enlisted in the military to survive. Qing desperately wants to eliminate him, but hesitates out of respect for his high-ranking patron. She decides to bide her time and draw him deep into her own territory. Eventually, Qing reaches the guards, the officer supposedly stationed. Without warning, she strikes like lightning, completely neutralizing both targets. The captured agent spits out an accusation, claiming Azure set them up. Right then, the treacherous officer reaches into his uniform, triggers a hidden transmitter, and mutters that the operation has begun. In an instant, heavy vehicles encircle Qing. Launching herself high into the sky using her specialized high-jump gear, she mocks their pathetic attempt at an ambush. She tries to crush the turncoat first, but his backup speeds forward to run her down. Qing violently deflects the incoming vehicles using her sheer physical might, immediately launching a strike at the traitor. However, she is stunned when he blocks it. Smirking, the rebel reminds her that their personal suits are highly reinforced. Azure sneers, boasting that this parking lot was a carefully planned trap. Right on cue, his allies accelerate toward her once more. The traitor is confident he has won, but suddenly, an overwhelming supernatural force freezes everyone in their tracks. Even Qing begins to levitate. It is young Rui, unleashing her immense bloodline energy. The loyal soldier instantly rejoices, recognizing the signature power of their beloved young princess. The villain chose the wrong battlefield near our hero's daughter. And that's where we leave it, trust me. You and I are going to love seeing how Dr. Li celebrates her victory. You and I are starting today with a wild reunion. Rui tears up, hugging Qing, who praises her bravery, while the doctor laughs at how those foolish traitors completely underestimated the little princess's power. Rui explains she did her best to stay strong and protect everyone. Suddenly, the main character's wife, Xin, runs over with a huge smile, having been called by Qing the second the girl unleashed her incredible supernatural abilities. The two embrace tightly. Instantly, her mother bombards her with questions, asking if she ate well during her training and if she actually listened to Master Li's strict orders. Master Li admits she only behaved a little bit. Qing quickly shifts the topic, warmly congratulating the main character's wife on the massive success of their new political and business alliance. Xin agrees they need to discuss this, her heavy expression revealing that things are going downhill fast. It is much harder than she expected, but she will break any barrier to protect her family. Hearing this, Rui immediately asks where her father is, and Xin promises a reunion is coming soon. Meanwhile, Qing walks off, deeply shaken by the presence of a traitor inside the Black Armor Army. Even so, she is resolved to protect the main character's family until he gets back. Later, the captured traitor Azure is dragged into the office where Qing demands the absolute truth. The captive sneers that he has no family or friends, so she can only threaten his life. Qing slowly presses her blade against his neck, whispering that she is perfectly fine with his silence. She snatches the hidden controller right out of his mouth, crushes it, and uncovers a data card revealing the mastermind behind his betrayal. Shaken, the officer finally speaks, warning that only the legendary White Tiger can rival Qing. Her guard finds it hard to believe this traitor is a White Tiger agent, but Azure reveals the actual envoy is currently stationed in the northwest. Meanwhile, our focus shifts back to the main character's squad. They arrive at a quiet settlement belonging to the mysterious snake tribe. Long knocks on a villager's door to see if anyone is home, but the slight vibration causes a loaded gun to tumble out. Suddenly, something catches Yubing's eye, making her run forward. Long calls out, asking what she found. She quickly warns him not to touch it, pointing directly to a bizarre lizard on the dirt. Long notices a creepy, intelligent twinkle in the creature's eyes. Lin cuts in, grabbing the fallen firearm, urging them to focus on the home because there might be a dead body waiting inside. Lin prepares to kick the door down, but Yubing suggests they surround the place. Now, pay attention here because Lin coldly tells her that acting suspicious only exposes her, and they push inside. Long notices Yubing looking incredibly nervous and asks what she is hiding. Suddenly, a violent explosion blasts through the very gap the lizard slipped into. Someone is definitely hiding on the other side. Long agrees they should follow her advice and get out. The mercenary bolts first but is blocked by a snake tribe warrior. Acting fast, Lin channels his lightning energy and shoves his hand into the opening. The wall crumbles, exposing a dead body covered in reptilian scales. Nerba examines him, realizing he is one of her own. Strangely, our hero suspects this corpse is the very lizard they just saw. The bizarre theory clicks for everyone. Furious, Nerba accuses Yubing of mutating her people into reptiles. Long quickly grabs the mercenary, threatening her if she does not start talking immediately. Nerva mourns her fallen tribesmen while her people watch in shock. Meanwhile, Yubing flashes a deeply unsettling, wicked grin. Suddenly, the dead body bloats, blisters erupting across the skin, before violently exploding. The squad is stunned. Taking advantage of the chaos, the tribe chief vows to kill Yubing, while Long keeps her pinned. Nerba refuses to wait and charges forward with her staff. The mercenary knees, Long to break free, drawing a concealed weapon on Nerba, while Lin and Fun instantly aim their guns back at her. Lin warns her not to do anything stupid. Surprisingly, she agrees, dropping her gun. Our hero tells the group to hold their fire and let her talk, prompting the mercenary to confess to everything. She is a double agent serving the White Tiger. She explains that the northwest border has been a brutal war zone, torn apart by clashes between the Sandwolves, the Snake Tribe, and other factions. Yubing explains that innocent folks are always the ones who suffer in these wars. She thought her life was over until the White Tiger saved her and rescued her village. Ever since, she pledged her absolute loyalty to him. He ordered her to infiltrate the Sandwolves and wait for Lin to arrive. As it turns out, the White Tiger secretly rules the Sandwolves, plotting to conquer the entire Northwest and hunt down our hero. Lin remains dead silent. Yubing glares at Nerba, spitting that the Snake Tribe burned and pillaged her home, so she simply took revenge. Nerba admits her past sins, carrying heavy regret. Still, Long yells that this does not justify her cruelty, threatening to pump her full of lead. But our main character steps in, telling him to let her finish. Shoving Long away, she sneers at him to obey his boss. Now, let us look at the reward she offers Lin for actually listening to her story. She casually points out where the remaining Snake Tribe members are. With a simple snap of her fingers, lifeless bodies drop from the ceiling. Lin realizes these victims were eliminated under her watch, while Fun grows deeply curious about how she transforms humans into actual lizards. Yubing proudly explains she uses a specialized serum gifted by the White Tiger Lord. Nerba condemns her horrific cruelty, but the mercenary claims watching people writhe and morph into beasts is absolute poetry. She boasts that slaughtering their clan leaders was an absolute thrill. Lin is stunned that he missed her disguise completely, especially since even the supreme leader failed to suspect her. He realizes she is in league with the traitor, but Yubing screams that the White Tiger brought peace to their war-torn land, meaning no one can insult him. She remembers the horrific day her home was burned. Covered in bleeding wounds, she wandered aimlessly until collapsing near a Sandwolves outpost. Ruthless men tried to abuse her, but the White Tiger stepped in personally, shielding her from the brutality. Yubing admits she spent her entire life feeling completely invisible. Yet on that fateful day, the Lord called her by her own name, which is why she refuses to be branded a villain. The Snake Tribe leader was the monster who slaughtered her people and wiped out her family. Every drop of blood she spilled was to ensure their forgotten names would finally be remembered. Yubing blames our hero for abandoning them when absolute chaos swallowed the Northwest, accusing him of ignoring his own people. Watching closely, Fun notices Lin's legendary supreme energy leaking out as his temper flares. His rage explodes as wild lightning tears through the room. While a soldier keeps his weapon trained on the traitor, Yubing mockingly tells them to fire, as her monstrous curse is tied to her master. Now that her location is exposed, running is futile. Right on cue, a massive swarm of mind-controlled birds fills the sky. Nerba panics, realizing these birds are acting on the traitor's commands. Worse, her sacred staff's magic is completely blocked by the white tiger. Radiating a lethal aura, Lin commands his squad to prepare for total war. The aerial battle begins. Long fires wildly while Lin unleashes devastating lightning strikes. But with the endless swarm blocking the sun, Long decides their only way out is to put an end to Yubing. She laughs, warning that without negotiating with her lord, they are completely doomed. She mocks them as fools for not realizing what actually triggers this deadly trap. Exhausted, she walks away, but Long fires directly at her. Fun deflects the bullet skyward, urging peaceful negotiations. However, Lin knows these creatures will keep spawning as long as the magical array remains active. Leaping high above the clouds where the swarm gathers, Lin unleashes his ultimate lightning power. The creatures are completely vaporized, sending a rain of feathers down on the battlefield. Long cheers for his leader's power, but Yubing sneers that this snake territory trap is far from over. As the team struggles, she taunts Lin, saying he still does not understand how deep the Northwest conspiracy runs. Distracted, Fun is warned to focus. Suddenly, a red-eyed beast pierces Long's neck. You and I will see how he survives next time. All right, you and I are starting in a total bloodbath. As Fun screams, a soldier crushes an attacking bird, but then a whole flock swarms them, stabbing Long in the back. With his last breath, he vows he would serve his country again in another life before finally collapsing. Fang rushes to help, but Nerba stops him, warning against useless sacrifice as Lin frantically slices down the birds. Suddenly, a radio crackles to life. The static clears with a devastating update. Shin and the little princess have been taken hostage by the enemy. That brief distraction is all the mercenary needs to trap Lin in dark magic, celebrating her completed mission. Meanwhile, Qing sends a grim report that Wang has been murdered. Dr. Li is badly wounded and the sacred lab lies in ruins, with all meteorite research completely gone. Qing blocked the city to shield the girls, only to find the White Tiger faction had already infested everything. Qing drops to her knees, begging forgiveness. But trapped in the dark spell, Lin just orders her to keep protecting his family, his sheer anger exploding to shatter the magic circle. Roaring with fury at the sand wolves for touching his family, he summons a massive bolt of lightning that instantly vaporizes Ying into a skeleton. Nerba watches in utter disbelief, wondering why the Supreme hid this terrifying power. But Lin now realizes the truth. The entire battle in the Northwest was a trap orchestrated by the White Tiger. Watch closely, this is where the puzzle pieces fit. He was lured away to fight sand wolves so the enemy could freely strike Bin Hai. Holding his friend's lifeless body, Lin blames himself for bringing him along, asking Nerba to grant him a traditional snake tribe burial. Fun quietly mourns the tragic loss of their fallen comrades. As the smoke clears, Lin warns Nerba that the meteorite has been shattered, meaning supernatural powers are now active once again in this lawless land. That meteorite iron is the ultimate prize, and the White Tiger will mobilize everything to claim it. Weak or not, Lin swears he will save Yishin and Rui. The three survivors pile into the car as Lin hits the gas, while Nerba asks if this rogue general is actually his subordinate. Lin bitterly explains his military influence ended years ago. He speaks of the 4 legendary soldiers, including Zheilong and Baiyu, who now station their elite forces in different corners of the land. While Zheilong remained loyal by his side, the White Tiger secretly moved to the northwest border. Fun admits he genuinely believed they would get along since both grew up as orphans with similar pasts. He jokes the general is probably just obsessed with his spiritual cultivation, but Nerba shuts it down, swearing to destroy him regardless of his powers. Lin suspects a deeper conspiracy involving Shen Yan. Meanwhile, by a massive waterfall, the White Tiger is indeed training, slicing the rushing water apart effortlessly with raw energy. An anxious messenger interrupts, reporting that Yubing finished her task but was killed, asking if they should honor her as a fallen martyr. Shattering a giant boulder, the general coldly asks who she even was. The trembling scout explains she was their undercover mole, prompting him to summon his sergeants immediately. Deep in the Northwest Territory, Fun packs the final supplies. Traveling solo with the Snake Tribe leader, he asks if she is absolutely sure about staying behind. Still grieving her lost soldier, she hesitates. Meanwhile, in Bin Hai City, our main character is forced to return to rescue his beloved family. Reports reveal that Azure set up a parking lot trap. Qing willingly walked into it to expose the mastermind, while the little princess used her unique electromagnetic powers to hijack their course. But the White Tiger's rebel army quickly surrounded them. Even when Rui unleashed her power, they used meteorites to drain her energy and took them hostage. Dr. Li took heavy damage trying to protect them. Qing begs for punishment, but Lin reassures her that this was an elaborate trap long in the making. When he asks if she knows their current location, she admits she does not. Lin demands they be located immediately, fearing a deadly alliance between the White Tiger and Shen Yan. Qing confirms there is no contact between the two factions yet. Suddenly, a savage roar echoes through the air as a pack of wild wolves closes in, ready to tear them apart. As Lin stands completely still, Qing draws her weapon. This gives him a brilliant idea. Instead of fighting on two fronts, he will play his enemies against each other. I know what you're thinking. How is he going to pull this off? Well, he starts by ordering Qing to locate his family, and she instantly vanishes. Turning to the approaching beasts, Lin promises to slaughter these rabid dogs. Meanwhile, back at the royal palace, Shen Yan learns that the Supreme is back. The Dragon Lord wonders what move his rival is making. His advisor reports that Bai Yu seized Lin's family during his absence, meaning the hero returned solely to rescue them from the rebel grasp. Shen Yan laughs, doubting anyone could bypass Qing's tight security. But his smile fades, realizing the rogue general might actually want to conquer Binhai. Shocking news arrives, making him drop his wineglass. The legendary Black Armor army is fully under rebel control. The panicked Dragon Lord screams, demanding to know what they plan next. The servant admits their true motives remain hidden, but notes the hostages are being taken away. Shen Yan realizes with dread that soon no one will be able to stop this rogue army now that they've hijacked the elite squad. With the Supreme's authority completely ignored, the servant notes Lin stands alone with only Qing. Shen Yan wonders if he can finally crush them all in one swift move. Outside the gates, guards block Lin's path until they sense his suffocating dark energy. Ignoring their warnings, the Supreme casually steps directly into the royal halls. Expecting this grand entrance, Shen Yan welcomes him inside. Lin sits down casually, while the Dragon Lord remarks that it has been a long time since their last face-to-face meeting. Addressing him as the young emperor, Lin suggests that his host already knows exactly why he has come to visit today. Cutting straight to the point, Lin demands to borrow his imperial troops, promising that once his family is safe, he will pacify the chaotic northwest and bring total stability back to the empire. When Shen Yan asks if he is rushing things, Lin warns that rebel factions across the borders are already locked, loaded, and completely out of patience. If things spiral, the emperor's own throne will be at risk. The Dragon Lord realizes that even with his family captured, Lin is still as fearless and arrogant as ever. He agrees to lend his troops, but demands Lin's electromagnetic force lead the charge. Lin instantly understands the trade-off, realizing the emperor is asking for the ultimate sacrifice. Agreeing to reveal the secrets of his force when the time is right, Lin accepts the royal family token and bids the emperor farewell before departing the palace halls. No matter how strong a warrior is, family is always their weakness. Normally, the proud Supreme would never beg his worst enemy for help. Minutes later, Lin gets the location of his captured family. And trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens when he storms that research facility. All right, you and I are jumping right into a high-stakes rescue. Lin is warned it might be a trap, but he scoffs at the cheap trick, leaving his ally to rally the troops and head to the lab. Cut to little Rui trapped in an analysis tube. Bayu is shocked that her electromagnetic force is not reacting, guessing her powers are just too young and undeveloped to spark a response yet. Right then, Bayu gets the bad news: our hero is back in Binhai City, gunning straight for him. Shocked by how fast the Supreme returned, he calls his ally, the White Tiger, who demands Lin be taken hostage. When Bayu asks if the trap is set, the servant gives the green light. Suddenly, a massive crash from the ceiling cuts them off. Both look up, wondering what on earth is happening. A smoke-covered servant bursts in, frantically warning his lord that the Dragon Lord's elite force has surrounded the building. They just blew the main entrance and are launching a full-scale assault. Bayu still smugly thinks he holds all the cards with the Supreme's family hostage. Meanwhile, outside, Lin's soldiers strike with deadly precision, clearing Sector A and preparing to breach the final gate. Within seconds, the heavy gates shatter. Lin is cleared to enter, with intel confirming the secret lab is directly behind this wall. The hero charges inside, instantly blasting energy rays at the enemies who used to be his own squadmates before engaging in brutal hand-to-hand combat. He calls them out for betraying their brothers and country, yet they still dare point blades at their former leader. The beaten soldier can only whisper that he was just following orders. Hearing this, the Supreme stops. He steps back, asking if they truly want to keep fighting him. The soldier simply warns him that Shin and the princess are locked in the opposite lab. The soldiers warn him it is a trap, but our hero dismisses it as another cheap trick. He slaps his hand on the biometric scanner, and the heavy doors slide open. Now, pay attention here, the room is thick with blinding fog. Suddenly, the door slams shut behind them, and a dark silhouette rises. Lin immediately spots his wife and daughter unconscious inside a high-tech chamber. Bayu stands there grinning, welcoming the Supreme to his doom, while Lin desperately screams out to wake his family. Pure rage explodes as Lin unleashes lightning strikes, but Bayu dodges effortlessly, mocking his weakness. Lin keeps pressing the attack, refusing to yield, until a glowing portal suddenly tears open beside him. Bayu admits he is shocked Lin can still harness electromagnetic force while suppressed by the meteorite. He muses that perhaps the Supreme truly is the ultimate key. Lin dismisses the nonsense, but then realizes Bayu has indeed acquired the legendary meteorite. The villain laughs, bragging that soon, both the cosmic iron and the entire world will belong to the White Tiger. Right then, he yanks a device from his coat and hurls it down. A thick purple smoke erupts, completely blinding our hero. Realizing it is poison gas, he shouts for his men to cover up. He feels a flash of betrayal since they were once master and servant, but right now, none of that matters. He manages to rescue his family and get them to safety. Thankfully, Dr. Lee has recovered and is already at the hospital, treating both Shin and little Rui. With his family out of danger, Lin can focus on the war. Just then, Ching arrives with a grim update. The Black Armor Army is secured, but Bayu managed to slip away. Lin demands to know where the meteorite originated. Ching reports it came from the Snake Tribe's territory, where the lab was analyzing methods to control raw electromagnetic energy. Frustrated, Lin punches the concrete wall, leaving a massive crater. It is clear now that Bayu is just a puppet. The White Tiger's dangerous ambitions are spiraling out of control. He even dared to drag Shin and Rui into this war. Bayu might feel invincible with the Black Armor Army backing him, but his luck is about to run out. As they plot their next move, look who is finally waking up. Shin opens her eyes and instantly hugs the Supreme, crying tears of relief that he is back. Lin holds her tight, deeply, apologizing for being late. They talk softly, and she is relieved to see he is unharmed. Just then, their adorable daughter steps into the room. Both parents smile, filled with pure joy. Shin breathes a sigh of relief while Lin looks at his wife, whispering how much he missed her. Holding her hand, he explains that he must leave to truly keep them safe. He promises that once he eliminates Shannon and Bayu, they will live in peace forever. His wife smiles, wishing him luck and placing her full trust in him. Little Rui proudly declares her dad will win. As an aircraft lands on the roof to pick him up, Lin's goal is set to destroy that meteorite and bring peace back home. Ching asks if the family has been moved to the safe house. Lin confirms, warning her that Rui's electromagnetic power will attract endless enemies, meaning Ching must stay behind to guard them. He instructs her to meet him in the northwest once everything is settled. And with that, we head to the rugged northwest. Deep in the wasteland, the vile Sandwolf squad celebrates capturing a beautiful woman. Before Nerba can fight back, a sniper bullet pierces her shoulder, knocking her out cold. As the mercenaries plan to tie her up and bring her to their boss, an epic sword rains down from the heavens, completely vaporizing their getaway vehicle. They scan the area but find nothing, until a heavily armored warrior suddenly grabs the massive sword. They open fire, but he swings his blade so fiercely that wild flames erupt. In mere seconds, he slices through the squad. The survivors flee behind rocks but are ruthlessly hunted. He spots a few escaping in a truck but decides to let them run. Grabbing a terrified survivor, he demands to know what happened to the Snake Tribe. Shaking with fear, the man confesses that the White Tiger destroyed everything and plundered their resources. The warrior presses the blade closer, demanding to know why they targeted Nerba. The mercenary stammers in terror, swearing they only chanced upon her. They just grabbed her and dumped her staff. The warrior sighs in fury and turns away. Meanwhile, back at the central training base, Ching escorts Shin inside. This is the country's safest fortress, where the Supreme trains his elite soldiers. Shin asks if Lin ordered this. The guard nods, telling her they are perfectly safe under the protection of Xiao Ying, Lin's legendary former lieutenant and master of electromagnetism. Reassured, Shin wishes she could do more to help her husband. The officer suddenly remembers something, asking if she still has the necklace her father gifted to Rui. Shin admits she could never unlock its secrets. Ching suggests showing it to Xiao Ying, who might decipher the relic. Shin agrees enthusiastically. Cut to the Snake Tribe's territory the next morning. Our armored warrior is cooking up a snake stew and voices echo nearby. Lin is walking with a local villager, who mentions that the Sandwolf squad has been oddly quiet lately. He adds that just yesterday, a massive, fierce-looking warrior dropped from the sky, slept in the town square with a giant sword, and did absolutely nothing. Pointing him out, Lin approaches Xuan Wu after all this time. Xuan Wu removes his helmet, explaining he cut ties with Bayu long ago. Stick around to see how this alliance unfolds next. All right, let's jump straight into the chaos. The Black Armor Army has rebelled, and Xuan Wu has been searching everywhere for Lin since his awakening. Our hero asks about Suzaku, but only dead silence follows. A villager offers water, then questions why Master Xuan Wu carries the Snake Tribe leader's sacred staff. The armored warrior explains he retrieved it while stopping enemy soldiers from capturing Nerba. Lin warns his ally that Nerba, this staff, and the mysterious meteorite are linked. The White Tiger needs all three to advance. Ju and Wu agrees they cannot cross the meteorite without her. Meanwhile, in Sandwolf territory, Nerba hangs from a cross under mercenary guard. Even knowing it is an obvious trap, our hero refuses to back down. Xuan Wu drops from the sky, crashing into the mercenaries and sending bodies flying instantly. Bombs rain down on Xuan Wu. Lin screams for him to retreat. Above them, a silhouette mocks the main character, asking if he truly expected an easy break-in. Now here's where everything gets extremely tense. They threaten the rescued hostages, shoot one of them, and warn our main character not to take another step. Lin ignores the threat, boiling with rage. The old soldier conjures a thick sand mist, but Lin realizes they are just using it to hide their fading power. He shouts that he will draw their fire while Xuan Wu rescues the hostages. Gripping his sword, Xuan Wu charges and leaps bravely through exploding flames. The enemy attack intensifies, shaking the very ground. Lin warns him to be careful, but Xuan Wu holds the falling stone platform steady, buying vital rescue time. The rescue succeeds, but the villain has one final trick. Suddenly, the ground beneath our hero collapses, dropping him directly into a brutal underground crusher. The old soldier flees by airship, while Lin gets swallowed by the quicksand. As he sinks, giant birds suddenly swoop down from the heavens to pull him free. Turns out they are controlled by Nerba. You and I just witnessed a crazy turn, so drop a comment with your thoughts